If you were going to become a mafia guy, you had to kill somebody. You might have to kill your best friend and who you love. The way I got made is I had to go on a hit in New York City. We were all vicious and violent and, dangerous. When a guy asked us to go down and kill a guy in New York, we just would do it.
Anthony Arillotta is a former mafia boss from Springfield, Massachusetts. He grew up entrenched in mob culture. From a young age, he learned about gambling and loan sharking from his uncles and cousins who were all involved in the life. After finding early success in the pot trade, Anthony formed his own crew and opened up a string of illegal sports betting and shylocking operations throughout Springfield and the rest of New England, and later transitioned much of his wealth into legitimate real estate ventures. He eventually became a made man with the Genovese crime family, who, of course, are based in New York City, but at that time firmly ran and controlled Springfield. Anthony gives us rare insight into the inner workings of the Italian mafia and how they really function in the modern age, and reveals the dirty secrets of what he believes is the last mafia war that will ever take place amongst Italian Cosa Nostra in the United States. Anthony and his crew were eventually taken down by a federal RICO indictment, and facing a life sentence, he decided to cooperate. Today, he is a fully legit real estate investor and entrepreneur, and he's got a brand new book out that just hit the shelves called The South End Syndicate, available right now anywhere you get books. Also, this week on Patreon, we have a very special follow-up episode with our good friend, Cavario Hodges. Go check that out on Patreon, patreon.com/theconnectshow. Without further ado, one of the most fascinating and authentic mob stories I've had the pleasure of listening to, Anthony Arillotta, right here on The Connect with Johnny Mitchell.
I went to prison at 20 years old. That was the best thing that happened to me, because when I went to prison, I was around seasoned gangsters. So that's how I started getting involved. I was making $100,000 a month while I was in prison.
That's when I see the lights behind me start to flash. And I didn't even think, I just hit it. I was driving like my life depended on it. Then I parked the car, hopped out, closed the door, and I started running.
And he pulls out a burner, a shank, it's like 6 inches. And then he passes it to me. And he goes, "Here, that's yours. Don't ever leave the cell block without this." He was the reason I made it out of that place alive.
So you're not a Boston cat?
I'm not.
Okay, got it. Is there any connection between...
I'm a Boston guy. It's just that I grew up in Springfield.
Okay, so did you make your bones in Springfield or in Boston?
I made my bones. Well, when you say make my bones, are we doing this now? Are we starting?
Yeah, we're live, baby.
All right,
we're just,
go ahead. So
we start informally.
When I say make my bones, are you saying like put in work to, I can't really say.
Hustling, Where'd you first get down?
I put in work. I call putting in work killing someone.
Right.
Putting my bones in all over Western Mass, Eastern Mass, Connecticut, New York, all the way into Albany. I was hustling and just I interacted with everyone who was anyone that was involved with some sort of like organized criminal activity.
Do you have that in your family?
I did. On my mother's side, my mother's sister, my uncle used to be the driver for the local mafia boss in Springfield, legendary boss. I wanted to shine light on, Western Mass, Connecticut, because nobody talks about those areas. They talk about, Boston, New York, Chicago, Philadelphia. And if you do some research on Connecticut, all of Connecticut, Western Mass, Central Mass, there's legends that came out of there as gangsters, notorious. Big Nose Sam was the boss of Springfield Mafia from 1930 to 1983. He was at the Appalachian meeting in 1957. The guy is a legend. He was a real boss, murders all over the place. Same thing in Connecticut. You had Whitey Tropiano in Murder Inc. He was involved with Murder Inc. So my family was, my uncle was the driver for the mob boss for Springfield. And my grandmother's brother was with the Patriarcha family. He was with the Whitey Tropiano. Whitey Tropiano was a notorious gangster out of Connecticut. They say he's got like over 50 murders. He was with that Murder Inc. They wanted my uncle to kill him.
All right.
This is back in like, the 70s. And my uncle didn't do it. And back then, you couldn't refuse an order. They wanted him to set him up. And my uncle ended up taking his own life, killing himself.
Wow.
Because he wouldn't kill his friend. He was close with Whitey. Whitey Tropiano. So yeah, so I do have family that is involved, and I do have family that was.
But this is kind of lineage stuff. Did you have anybody that directly kind of reared you? Kind of like those old school guys, like Sammy. Somebody from the neighborhood saw him and kind of plucked him and groomed him into becoming a
So we
man.
had the Mafia guys in Springfield. That's where I'm raised in Springfield. The south end of Springfield is all Italians, heavily populated Italian immigrant city.
Yeah.
We were known for that. New York guys used to come up and just couldn't believe how many. We call them grease balls, but there were immigrants like just flooded Springfield.
Right.
And so the South End was Springfield, and that's where the mob headquarters was. Big No Sam had his office down there. I went to school down there at a young age. So out of school, I get out, I would be hanging around the cafes. My uncle give me $20. We go here. And so I grew up around that presence.
Yeah.
And my father had a fruit store, fruit, vegetables, big wine grape distributor, and they all used to frequent his store. And if you're Italian growing up, you all, everyone knows what the Mafia is. Your family's like, Mafia is bad. And why they bad? Every time they come in the store, you guys are nice to them. You respect them. My father wasn't a wise guy. He had nothing to do with the Mafia, but they all came to his store and they had a lot of respect for him. He was a hardworking man.
Right.
So
how did he feel about wise guys?
He didn't like the fact that he had to work so hard, and they were like getting that easy money, and but he didn't. But they all loved him, and he wasn't. They liked him more than he liked them, but it's not like he didn't not like them. He treated them with respect,
right?
And he always told me, there's no such thing as kings on earth. These guys are going to end up getting killed or going to prison, and if you're in part of that life, you're going to have to take orders and things like that. So,
sounded like a good man, a reasonable man.
Yeah, great
trying
man.
to keep
hard
you on the
worker,
straight and narrow.
Wanted me to follow him and be a hard worker. That's hard work, that fruit and vegetable business, back-breaking work. Yeah. It's horrible. It just wasn't for me. Yeah. As I was getting into my later teens, I was just making money on the streets, and that work wasn't for me. Nothing, I wish, it was a great business. My father had it was a Costco before Costco. He had the biggest small business in Western Mass. He was the biggest wine grape distributor in all of Mass, 35, 40 trailer loads of wine grapes a year. And he had a great, successful business doing like 70, 80,000 in cash. Because back then in the 70s, there was no credit cards, and all that.
Especially now with Italians.
And even like that's a lot of money in the 70s and 80s.
He's doing that every day?
No, a week,
Which is, look, he's making a great living.
Yeah, great living back then. And that was when the food stamps used to be money. Like instead of cards, it used to be actual money food stamps. They had the dollar bills, 5s and 10s. And I think it was a 22. So I just couldn't do that work. It was hard work. And so the local guys I looked up to, they used to come into a store. They used to have meetings at his store. I used to see New York plates come in, old guys getting out, having meetings at my father's store. Because it was a legitimate place. That's what wise guys do. They want a place where there's going to be no law enforcement scrutiny. You follow me?
There's going to be no wires.
I used to do the same thing to people that were legitimate people. Let me come in. I use their phones. I'll meet people there and discuss business. That's what we do. And
when we talk about New York, was the Springfield family like a wing of one of the 5 families in New York?
Yes. Yeah, they were the 5 families in New York: Genovese, Bonanno, Gambino, Lucchese, Colombo. Genovese had factions in Florida, New Jersey, Connecticut, and Mass.
Got it.
And Connecticut and Mass fell under Springfield. So when I say Big No Sam was the boss of the Genovese family's Springfield, Connecticut faction.
Yeah.
Now, did he have to answer to New York? In a way, yes. When it came to if there was going to be a murder, if there was going to be a dispute between another family, New York would come in and mediate it. And, they were the... but no money. We were our own entity. No money. It wasn't like you hear the stories like you had to kick up. None of that happened.
Yeah. He would just go to the commission in New York when there was a big decision to be made.
No commission. He would go to our bosses in the Genovese family.
Of course, right. Yeah. Just the Genovese.
Just the Genovese. That's what we were. We were the Genovese family, notorious family. The biggest, they call it the Ivy League of all the families. And we were Genovese family.
And the Genovese family, as you say, the Ivy League, They're known for being the sharpest, the shrewdest, the best earners, and the most subtle.
Under the radar too.
Yeah.
You know, they were the bosses for that family, always were under the radar, low key, very shrewd, multi-millionaires. Didn't squeeze their captains, which meant didn't squeeze their soldiers, which meant didn't squeeze their associates. And that's why they flourished. And that's why no money came from our area to New York, because they were all millionaires. In our area, they were all millionaires, multi-millionaires.
So you could be a millionaire even if you were just a captain, because I
was a millionaire, and that was before I wasn't even made. So that, you know, like these guys that were made guys were all multi-millionaires, and their families that were involved with them were all multi-millionaires. And the bosses in New York, you know, you're talking like Fat Tony Salerno and Matty the Horse and all these guys that were, you know, names that are, I don't even want to say, that are involved in construction and concrete that are worth, you know, millions and millions. You know, Danny Leo was a boss of the family. His bail was $25 million. He was out the same day.
Do you think that the not squeezing so much from the bottom, the boss is not demanding a big kick up from, you know, the hierarchy from the captains and soldiers, do you think that keeps a family together better? It makes people less bitter, and there's less a chance that they would like cooperate?
No, I don't think it's got to do with the cooperation part, but I just think that if you're the mafia, you know, like up until with our family, even till today, you know, it runs like a smooth, you know, fine oiled machine when the top is making money, intelligent. And so, and then they pass down that networking to their captains, and they pass that down to, so everyone gets, that's the made people get part of that networking. And in our family, I think that's what happened. It's,
yeah, when everyone's thriving,
they're
going to do better. The machine is going to do better.
And not only that, it's hard to get like today, we'll jump fast forward today. There's nothing to offer a young kid today to say, oh, you're going to work with me and you're going to have to go kill that guy for me. Why would somebody risk going to kill somebody when there's nothing that you can offer that kid today for money purposes? There's the rackets doesn't exist like that no more today. Now, back then they did, you know, so, but here's another thing. You wouldn't want to starve the young guys, the associates, because, you know, you would go partners with them in deals, you know, and so, you know, you want to, you know, they're earning, you're earning, you know, I think it's like, it ain't like, you would just say to them, you got to kick up and you got to give me this. And, you know, I know that does happen. And I know there's a lot of broke guys that were bosses that would want their captains to kick up. But, you know, these guys were all multimillionaires.
Today's episode is sponsored by PrizePicks, my new favorite sponsor. You guys know what time it is already if you're a fan of the show. PrizePicks is the only way I play daily fantasy sports. They're America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. They have 5 million active users, and here's why. It's simple. It is the easiest way to fire on sports action. I'm a casual sports fan, but PrizePicks has brought me back into the world of sports and has made it easy for me to double, triple, even 10x my money. And here's how. Unlike other sports apps where you're trying to play against the sharks and the pros and the people making the lines in Vegas, the experts, PrizePicks allows you to play just you versus the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Get in on the daily action with your friends and become part of the PrizePicks community today. You can now win up to 100 times your money with just 4 correct picks on PrizePicks. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play just $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Just $5, a cup of coffee money, gets you into the game and gets you winning. I love these guys. You know it. They've been sponsoring me for a while, and they've gotten me back into watching sports. This week, I'm picking Tyreek Hill to receive over 1,376 yards, and then Saquon Barkley to rush over 1,050 yards. You see how that works? It's easy. Download the PrizePicks app today and get a $100 deposit match just for signing up. Once again, that's prizepicks.com or download the app. Use promo code CONNECT, CONNECT, get that $100 deposit match, and start winning today. Get in the game, you guys. Thank you for sponsoring the show, PrizePicks. Let's get back into the episode. So it was more like networking. If you want to make money with your captain, let's go do some business together.
Sure, there might be like a lot of legitimate businesses, and in multifamily deals, like with different families getting involved, and they, they were so powerful that they had big deals. They weren't worried about the bosses and the top the underbosses and top captains. They're not even worried about the numbers business or the loan sharking, or they leave that to all the soldiers and everything. They're into like the big concrete and construction and legitimate businesses, the unions, and and that's where they're focused on. So it's like they leave that all to the younger guys.
Yeah, they don't need an envelope with $1,000 in cash. It's like, what is that?
Yeah, and I don't know if people realize how much money the Mafia made. I know what we made in Connecticut and Mass.
So let's talk about that. Let's talk about your story.
Yeah.
So you're about 17 when you start hustling?
Well, I was always betting sports at a young age since I've been 8 years. I've been betting since 5 years old, kindergarten. I used to, first grade, I used to have like my father was like funny. I had a little sheet with like 25 cents with people's names, and I was like in the first, second grade. Wow. Betting. And so I was just a gambler. So with that, being a gambler, it's like gives you that hustler mentality mindset. And so growing up, I was betting games throughout up until I remember being in the 8th grade. I was betting, and this is back when maybe 1979, 1980. I was betting like $100 a game. And my 8th grade teacher probably was only making at the time 200 a week, 300, whatever they were making back then, And I used to give her the picks. And she couldn't believe it. She goes, I can't believe you bet $100 a game and $50 a game. And so the hustling part led into, and then I started always getting in trouble fighting. We were always having fights growing up in school. And I got arrested at 15 years old, assault and battery. I was a juvenile. And then it transferred into, I would say, a little bit of taking bets, betting, taking bets up until I was around 18. I started dabbling into selling a little cocaine, small, ounces, small level ounces types. And we were just dabbling into a little sports and a little thing like, nothing major though, just small level up until about, I would say I went to prison at 20 years old, state prison. When I got out of prison, I got a shooting case. I had to do 5 years.
Okay.
I had a year mandatory for the gun.
Right.
I had to do a year. That was the best thing that happened to me because when I went to prison, I was around seasoned gangsters, old time gangsters. Massachusetts, it's not like what you hear in other states. It's it's a heavily populated Irish and Italian prison system. With organized crime criminals, not just,
Crips and Bloods and
well, not
Latin
even that.
Kings.
It's like not white guys that were coming in for domestic battery or drunks or alcoholics, drug addicts. These guys were dangerous killers.
Right. In-state prison, which is rare.
Prison. And there was none of that racial division in our state. Like there wasn't like the blacks had a state, you still stuck to your own, like the Italians and Irish stuck with them, but we were friends with blacks and the Spanish, Latinos, and there wasn't that, where you can't talk to that group because, no interaction. It wasn't like that in Mass. And the most dangerous, this is back in 1990, was like the white guys were the murderers. Like they were dropping bodies left and right. One guy was like 5'5", 120, 130 pounds soaking wet. And he had 6-7 bodies inside the prison alone.
Wow.
And I met all kinds of guys like that.
Yeah.
So when I got out of prison and I'm meeting all these guys, one guy in particular, he was a big time LA guy now, Brian Goodman. He was a vicious Irish thug back then. And he got me into, he was like 7 years older than me. And we discussed the marijuana business. And Massachusetts, I say that all the time. Mass. The laws were 50 pounds and under. It's a misdemeanor.
What?
So yeah, it's like, not in a school zone, 50 pounds. And back then, everyone was going after the crack guys, the heroin, the cocaine. I come out of prison and I hit the streets hard, So my first deal was going to Boston, buying marijuana from his guys in Boston. I remember, I think the first 5 pounds I bought, I paid like $3,200 a pound. Right. So they were probably, robbing out of me. They probably were I was probably paying, they were making $1,500 a pound off me, maybe. Who
That's
knows?
a lot of money though for a pound of weed in 1990.
Yeah. And, well, it's not depending on what grade it is. And this was probably low to mid grade. And it was probably, I could have, not knowing nothing, just getting started, though I still sold it and made a profit.
Right.
So that's how I started getting involved in the weed business. So that and everything went like that's when I got out in 91, we were hijacking trucks, like hijacking them, like just taking the whole truck, not, robbing the guy, taking him out of the car. Like there would be a truck, we'd back in with a truck, take the whole thing, or just go and get the truck and take all the stuff in it and load it into another truck.
You're jacking trucks coming out of Springfield, or did you have a trucks out of town?
Connecticut
Right.
and Mass. And then I had, we used to offload them in Boston. The guys would take the whole loads. Like, we'd grab like, a load that was worth $300,000-$400,000 worth of stuff, and I'd go to Boston and get like $70,000-$80,000 cash for the load.
Who was your fence there? Who was buying it?
Organized crime criminals, Whitey Bulger and that crew.
Right.
I was dealing with a lot with the Irish.
Right. So the Winter Hill Gang, I was going to say.
Winter Hill Gang.
How strong were they in Mass at that time compared to the Genovese out of Springfield?
So they were based more out of Eastern Mass, Boston area.
Right.
And they were very powerful, but they still were the Italian and different families. So the Italians were the patriarchal family. So the Italians were still more powerful. They had more numbers. They had like a bigger army with them, all killers.
Yeah.
Whereas the Winter Hill Gang was a vicious Irish mostly. They did have Italians that were involved with them, major league Italians. I'm talking like Johnny Martorano. He was like Sammy the Bull with 19 murders he copped out to.
Right.
But unlike, with Sammy, this guy was he killed all 19.
Right.
I mean, he was a legitimate guy going to Florida, whacking people, going to Oklahoma, killing people, going all over the country, killing people. And so they had Italians and Stephen Flemmi, another one, notorious murderer and this and that. So
you still think the wise guys, the Patriarcha, was still stronger than the Irish guys in Boston?
A doubt. Oh, yeah. Everyone would tell you that. But it was just, they were just.
The Winter Hill Gang has all the press because they.
No, the Patriarchas in Boston were known, in Julos back when they got arrested in the mid 80s. That was a powerful, that was a notorious family. Okay. Raymond Patriarcha Sr. was on the commission. He was like a boss that was on, that was a legendary boss. That family was legendary. Those guys, J.R. Russo, Vinnie Ferrara, Bobby Crozzo, that whole Zanino. Right. There was a list of them, notorious gangsters. Winter Hill, the only guys that you would get out of them were Whitey Bulger, Howie Winter, but you would get Whitey Bulger, Stevie Flemmi, Johnny Martorano, and then you start tapering off to like the guys who were around them, Well,
I meant in popular culture, we associate Boston with Irish people, so that gets all the lore, but. That's tons of Italians, and I'm sure they did better than the Irish because they're just
without a doubt they had more
money-making
numbers,
guys.
And it's heavily populated with Italians too. They had Medford and North End of Boston, East Boston. Just like I know you get that with it's got that Irish reputation.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
The Celtics got the Shamrock on their thing, so they get that. But no, it was heavily populated Italians. When I went to prison, but it was equal Irish and Italians, and we all got along. We had the Irish club, the Italian club. We could have parties once a month. They'd invite us, we'd invite them, and it was really great. And
so when you're hijacking these trucks, you're selling these goods to these families in Boston.
Yeah, most of them to the Irish Whitey Bulger's crew right there. And the reason for that, it was because when I got locked up, I was around a lot of those crazy Irishmen, that were associated with, the Charlestown guys. They were notorious bank robbers and armored car guys. And these guys were ballsy kids, ballsy dudes. And they were good with knives. They were good with guns. And you ain't disrespecting them. They'll blow your head off.
For sure.
Just like we would, but it's not like you go to other cities and you'll be like, mostly the Irish in other cities are more legitimate. They're not as crazy. They're not organized crime, criminal. It's almost like, remember the Westies in New York?
Sure.
Yeah, it's like that. So, something similar to that, but I think it was bigger in Boston with the Irish.
What kind of stuff were you jacking from these trucks?
Anything that was on them. I'll tell you a funny one, but like TVs, food products, anything, that were VCRs back then. And like I said, a lot of times it was foods, and my father had a fruit store, fruit and vegetable. And one of the loads, it was all foods, you know, like candies and, you know, cigarettes was a big, you know, big thing back then. So I go to my father, that particular load, we unloaded it into a Ryder truck. And me and one of my guys, Freddie, it was of all of us, me, Freddie, Louie, we load up the Ryder truck and we end up going to my father's store. Now, at this time, we had the Ryder truck too long as a rental agreement. Yeah. And so we go to my father's store, and my father's like, you know, what do you got? I go, Dad, I got a load of stuff I got a good deal on. I go, you want it? I can give you a good price. You don't have to pay me nothing up front. And it was probably retail. He could have probably got like $250,000. I think he was going to give us $70,000. And we were just going to leave it with him, and he was going to pay us as we went, because that's my father. Yeah. And he didn't think they were stolen, because my father was a legitimate guy. Yeah. He wanted to did that. So we get to the place. Now, the Ryder company truck place is like around the corner, like less than a mile away. Now, they're looking for the truck as a stolen truck, because we didn't pay the fee to go to that next week, you know, whatever. Now they think the truck is stolen. And we got a gun in the truck, and so we start unloading there was an Italian immigrant that was working for my father, Guido. And he was so happy. He goes, Anthony, what are you doing now? You know, because I used to work in my father's store, and, you know, I wasn't working there now. This was, you know, for a couple of years. And I go, I'm selling these goods now. And he was so happy. He gives me a hug. He goes, I'm so happy for you. I'm so proud of you. So we get the two-wheelers, and we go to the truck, and we go to start unloading the truck. So he says, I'll help you. So the three of us, me, Freddie, and Guido, start going out. When I open the door, I see the two guys with a car here and a car here. They look like feds with suits on. And there was one at the front of the truck, one at the back. And I know right away, I thought they were cops. So right away, I don't even make eye contact, and I just go around the corner. I think Freddie caught on, but he wasn't as sharp as me, I don't think. And so he kind of follows me, but poor Guido, he starts unloading the truck. So we go into my father's store right away. I go in the back, me and Freddie. I put on an apron. I pretend I'm sweeping the floor and shopping and everything like that. I mean, throwing the stuff in the dumpster. And poor Guido, the cops come in now, boom, 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 and they grab Guido, and now he doesn't know anything about anything. Right. They go, what are you doing? He goes, I'm helping unload a truck. And I go, what do you know? He goes, and the guy was like, I don't know nothing. They got him up against the wall. And it was it was kind of so, it was so hilarious, because this poor guy is getting harassed by the cops. He's an Italian immigrant. He's working hard. And he's like, what are you doing? Who is this stuff? And then he goes, I don't know whose stuff it is. I was just helping unload the truck. They asked my father. He goes, yeah, a couple guys came here. They wanted me to buy some stuff. They took off. I'm outside throwing the stuff in a dumpster. I see the truck, the door open, and I see cops, and the guys with the suits were the Ryder company people. So I see the cops right there, and I'm pretending out of the corner of my eye I don't see him. And finally I turn and look, and he goes, is that one of them? And they go, no, that's not him. And Freddie's hiding in a doghouse in the backyard. We had a doghouse, and he was inside the doghouse. I don't know how he even got in there, right? And so they end up leaving. We end up getting away. So like the loads all mostly went down to Boston. That particular load I try to sell to my father.
So you're doing these hijackings. You're moving pot. How does that grow? The pot business.
So I became the biggest marijuana distributor in all of Connecticut and Mass. Wow. I mean, that's how big I got. But it started slowly, and it just grew. Yeah. You know, I got out of, I went back to prison a couple times. So I would grow I had partners I had a partner in the marijuana business. And I had a partner and I had a big loan shark business going on. So we had like 400,000 on the streets back then.
And you're loaning to businesses?
No, street guys mostly. Okay. You know, this one guy owed us 30,000, and we gave money to everybody, and that's a bad thing to do. You know, we just buried people. You know, and like we would just stuff them. You know,
irresponsible.
20,000, 30,000, 10. You know, because we were young. We didn't. You know, we're asking for trouble. But if they didn't pay, they knew they had to pay. But you're asking for trouble.
So if a guy, like you say, a street guy. So say a guy wants to go get a dope package, like go get a kilo.
No, we don't deal with junkies like that. No.
A drug dealer though. Like
when you say anybody that. Yeah. Well, I mean. When I say we don't deal with drug addicts. No, anybody that needs 1,000, it starts off with 1,000, and then they're paying some 30 a week, 40 a week, 50 a week. I didn't do knockdown loans. I just did. You pay me every week until you pay it back.
Right.
So, we had some guys at 5 points, so say you got 100,000 and you're averaging 3 points, all right? You're making 3,000. We're making 12,000 a week because we got 400,000 out there. Now, not everybody pays on time and so forth and so, whatever. So,
and are you with the Genovese now? Like, do you have the backing of the family?
So when I came home from prison in 1991, I got formally put on record with the Genovese family with Al Bruno. He came to my house after I got out in 91 that year. He just happened to get out of prison doing a little bit for something. And he says, you want to be with me? And he's kind of like my cousin on my mother's side. Okay. I was very close with him. He's very close with our family. He used to always come into my father's store. He was a gangster, He was a gangster. He was a legitimate, he's a killer, but he was also a flashy, smoked the cigars and a moneymaker, top moneymaker.
Right.
Another guy liked me, but he was a Mad Hatter, Anthony DeLavo. He didn't have finesse. He was just fly off the handle, nut job, want to smash you, kill you, all that. Right. So I formally go on record with Al Bruno to be with him in the Genovese. He goes to his boss, says, I'm going to put Anthony on record with me. That means I'm formally, with the Genovese family. Right. They go, okay, so I start with them. But when we had the 400,000 on the streets, I wasn't giving Bruno a penny of that.
Right.
Which is a bad thing. The things I was doing with Bruno was I was doing sports gambling, loan sharking with him, some of it. We had dice games. I used to have a bar in Westfield. It was a college town, and me and Freddie had a bar called Gabby's back then. College kids and everything. That was a funny story because that was one of our guys that owed us money, loan shark. That was like part of that 400,000.
Right.
So he couldn't pay. So we went in and took half the joint.
Right.
And then from half the joint, we ended up. He was partners in the biggest restaurant down at the Cape Cod. It was doing like $5.5 million a year. Wow. We ended up getting involved with that. Wow. There was like Dallas Cowboys that weren't partners with it. They didn't know they had two notorious gangsters going to be in their silent partners. Right. So it led to that. Right. And so, so Bruno didn't have anything. The mob didn't have anything to do with our 400,000. Now I go to prison again for a violation, assault and battery case. Back in, I get out in 91. I go back to prison for assault and battery. And we had a lot of, when I say corruption, but we had a lot of influence with law enforcement. So when I went there, I had 4 judges at my wedding when I got married. That's who I went in front of. The guy never showed up at my arraignment. I was on parole, so they threw me in prison, parole violation. Yeah. At my arraignment, I got let out. It got dismissed because the guy didn't press charges on me, But at my arraignment, the guy said, I'm dismissing the case. That's unheard of. And I'm not saying the judge was corrupt. He didn't do anything like that. He just liked my mother and father. Yeah. He didn't think that I wasn't a mobster like that yet, known. He didn't do anything wrong. He just did it because that was the right thing to do. Instead of delaying it, he did it as because of who my family was, as nice, hardworking people, Right. It was a black judge on top of it, so nice guy. Yeah. So, I get out of prison. I go in front of the parole board. A good friend of my father. He ended up becoming mayor of our city, but he was on the parole board. He lets me out. Yeah. That was the second time he let me out too, because he let me out the first time after the first year I got out. So I get out and my guys f***ed up the bankroll. I had built up like $100,000 bankroll, and these guys that were my partner weren't capable of. In the marijuana business, he wasn't capable. He liked to do drugs. Yeah. He wasn't a hustler. Yeah. I did all the work. Right. He f***ed up the bankroll. And the loan sharking, they weren't on top of it. So a lot of money went missing there. So I come out, I get back on top of it, put things back together. I go back to prison on another violation. This time it's a home invasion case where I'm facing 25 years. But I got the charges nal pros because I had a strong alibi from a restaurant guy that owned a big Chinese restaurant in Chicopee, Mass. Huki Lao. It's called Huki Lao. I said, Johnny, you remember the other night I was here? I wasn't there, but I said I was here. He said, yeah. He goes, yeah, you were here, you ate, and then me and you had cognacs with me till like 2 a.m. I said, thank you, my friend. Yeah. So I got an affidavit. We brought that to my lawyer. Right. And I ended up, and then they wanted, it was a fight over with a friend fighting with his girlfriend, and we went in the house and beat up the whole family, batted them, beat them all up, So they he pled guilty. That's all they wanted was him. And he ended up getting a little, like a year in prison for that. And they dropped my charges. There was like 6 or 7 of us involved.
Right.
No, everyone got probation, and I got mine now prost. And so I get out of prison. But I had to stay in prison for 8 months on that one.
Right.
This time I get out and I cut ties with they f***ed up the money again with the marijuana. So I get out of prison in 93 in June. I borrow $100,000 from my father cash. Because I want to get away from these guys that were my partners.
Yeah.
So we owed, like I said, we had 400. No, when we had 400,000 on the streets back then, we were borrowing it off this loan shark, who they call today. They give him the nickname the Animal. They said he's the boss of the current mafia today, which he isn't. But his name's Albert.
But he's still on the street today.
Yeah, he's on the streets today.
Oh,
right?
Wow.
So he's my friend. I talk with him and this and that, and so we were borrowing the money off of him at 2 points.
Right.
And then we were putting it out at 3, 4, 5, 6 points, whatever.
And that's your profit, right?
And then that's our profit.
Yeah.
But we owed him the money. And if you don't pay him, he's going to kill you. I mean, he had a guy shot 5 times in his face. He was like older than us. So a lot of guys looked up to him as we're young kids. Right. So you're not going to, he's known, he beat up another guy that owed him money, and the guy was wired, and he got 5 years sentence for it. Right. So he's not going to let you get away with not paying him.
Right. So let me ask you this. What did you do differently, seeing the mistakes of your early loan sharking days where you're loaning it out kind of recklessly?
Yeah.
You got to be careful now who you loan it to, because if you can't collect from them, you got to deal with Albert. So what did you do different? So
then we were reckless, right? We were giving anybody money. You could have been anything, anybody, if you don't pay us, we're going to hurt you bad. We were a violent, vicious crew.
Yeah.
And that's the wrong way to handle a loan sharking business. You don't want that. Like you just said, I'll tell you what I learned differently, but I borrowed $100,000 from my father to pay off Albert's my end of it. I owed him like a little bit around 120,000. So I get out of prison in 93. I borrow 100,000 from my father, 110, whatever. I pay Albert off and I say, listen, I'm out of that business. I got nothing to do with these other guys that owe you the money, because he still owed like another 250 from those guys, 300.
Yeah.
I said, I don't give a what happens. I go, but if I was you, I'd watch it, because there's a lot of shaky going on. He goes, I don't give a I already got a hold Doug. He goes, right? So, but I said, I don't care. Don't come to me. I go, here's the money. Boom. And he respects me for that to this day,
Yeah.
So now I don't have no partners no more. I get out of prison 93. I'm owe my father 100,000 and I'm living at my family's house. By 97, I'm a multimillionaire.
Okay.
All from so that's how quickly I just paid my father back and I just hit the streets hard, and I grinded and I got rid of the partners. And what I did instead of partners, I just networked with everybody. It didn't matter who you were: Irish, Italian, Black, Jamaican, Spanish, Colombian. Because in the marijuana business, it's all walks of life. I was buying from the Jamaicans. I was selling to Jamaicans. I was buying from Italians. I was selling to Italians. I was buying from New York, selling to Boston, buying from Springfield, selling to New York. It was just, I controlled the whole area. Okay. Major. We were going, then eventually we started going to Mexico, going inside Mexico. I won't, I'm not crazy, but I'm not that crazy. But my guy is great guy. This guy, Dickie, he used to go back with 200,000, go right into Juarez, Mexico. At that time, Juarez was the capital of murder of the world.
Right.
Going there with 200,000, dealing with the cartel. He was an ex-Navy guy, like military guy.
Yeah.
So he was nuts. And he was a French guy. On top of it, he wasn't Italian, but I loved him. He was crazy. Right. So he would go in there, deal with them, 200,000. He told me when he went into Mexico, there was like cartel guys with machine guns in warehouses. I was actually talking to a guy last night from LA, and he goes, I know exactly where you were. I was telling him this story.
Yeah.
And he was a big time.
Like the movies.
Yeah. So he tells me, goes in, there's all kinds of guys with machine guns, and there's a warehouse with thousands of pounds in there. And he goes in and he picks his weed that he wants, and then he would mark it. Yeah. Then he would go back over the border. He'd leave a couple 100,000 there, and then they would come over with SUVs and bring it over, and he would be at the house on the other side of the border. Right. And then he had to package it up, and then we'd put someone on the road to bring it back, 500 pounds at a time, 400 pounds at a time. We'd have a couple people driving it back. So it eventually got to that.
Wow. So what is 200,000? How many pounds does that get you?
So like at that level, so that's Mexico. So there's different types of marijuana, what he was getting, and there's different, when we come back, there's different. I sold anything from 150 a pound garbage dirt weed. I mean, garbage. I would go to New York and pay 150. One time I went to New York, I don't even think it was weed. It looked like weed.
Yeah.
It was green like weed, but people said when they smoked it, it didn't get them high.
Yeah.
But I still sold it and made money on it. I think I paid $100 for a pound, and I was selling it for $400 or $500 a pound.
Wow.
I was like 250 pounds of it. So you got that level of 150, and guys want it, believe it. Like you got, don't forget, I wasn't that old, and I was selling to teenagers, young guys, and I flooded them. The way I got big was if I had a guy that wanted a pound, and he was doing a pound a week, I would just say, here, take 3 pounds. Guy was doing 5 pounds a week, I'd say, here, take 20 pounds. Guy, eventually, as I got bigger, a guy was doing 20 pounds a week, I'd say, here, take 50. And I would just front them all. They give me a little chunk down, and I would front them all. And I had hundreds of thousands on it. I'm going, but it's slowly I built this.
Yeah.
But they would owe me, I would get it fronted too. I was getting it fronted. Like whoever I dealt with, you build up that reputation. Like Anthony, I'm sitting on 300 pounds. Yeah, bring it to me. I give him 50,000 cash. I owe him the rest and just piece them off like that. So then it went as high as 8,000 a pound. And what I did was,
and that's for Kush.
That's like back then we had hydro.
Yeah.
And like they called it the G13, whatever that was, like the names, Purple Haze, like that. And I'm not a pot smoker, so I don't know, like I don't care about what the brands are, what the names are. I just care, what does it cost me? Do you like it? And what am I making?
I was the same way.
Yeah, I don't give a fuck about, this is, I don't smoke it, you know. I tried it one time and I was like, and it got me. Like when I was young, I tried it a couple of times and it was like fun. You know, we used to laugh, couldn't stop laughing, so, but I just didn't like it. So what I eventually got into, the garbage weed and the mid grades and the little higher mid grades, I keep in Connecticut and Mass, but New York gobbled up all the high end. Right. Like I went to New York and would buy 300 pounds of, say, skunk weed. I would pay $1,000, but I would I would wholesale in my area for 14, 15, 1600, the whole 100. Yeah. And that's not bad. You make 40, 50,000 doing nothing real quick. Here, I got 100. Here's one deal, 100. What did it take? I didn't drive it. I had a driver go to New York. I would do the business. He'd drive it back, So, but then New York, when I had guys with the hydro, like that good hydro and grown, organic, whatever they grow it. Indoors and stuff. And they would charge me $3,000, $35,000. I go to New York and get $5,000 because they used to sell it to those Wall Street guys and get the big money. Yeah. So they said, Anthony, any type of weed that you get, the high end, just bring it to us. We don't care. Yep. And I helped them get rid of, and I did a lot of business with New York. I did a lot of, I started off in Boston, but then I started supplying Boston, because I was just getting, see, Boston is our hour away from us, but we're closer to New York. Yeah. So people are coming through us. So I was kind of like getting the deals to sell to Boston. Sure. It was like, that's what Springfield was good. Yeah. And there were Connecticut too. So, Connecticut goes, Springfield borders Connecticut, which it goes to then Hartford, then it goes up, you got Bridgeport, New Haven, Stamford, and then you're into New York. Right. So it comes down back into Mass. Yeah. So Boston, you got to go the other way. So, I was getting great deals. Right. So you're and I was dealing with all those crazy Jamaicans that were chopping people up in the 90s. Right. Like you ever read about those guys?
Like the shower posses. They called them posses.
Oh my God, they were finding blood. Brutal. Yeah, like different DNA bones and exactly. I was dealing with. They loved me. Right. Yeah. I'm in my house. I had them in a house. They used to bring their kids over. I couldn't ever understand them really too. They used to talk that heavy Jamaican stuff. Yeah,
that patois.
Yeah. Oh my God, but they were vicious.
So were you ever really down with the family? Like what does do the Genovese now? Do you have them? Are you still on record with them?
Oh yeah. So I get on record in 91. Now I'm doing all this stuff on the side. Right. I'm hustling my balls off marijuana. Right. But I'm still doing the work with the Genovese family, with, like I said, I'm partners with Bruno with sports gambling. Right. Sports gambling is like this. Me and Bruno were partners. We're the bookmakers. Yeah. Okay. If you bet with us and you win 10,000, we got to pay you out of our own pockets. If you lose 10,000, we're going to put 10,000 in our pockets. And then what it comes down to is you have guys that, we had workers that worked for us answering the phones, dozens and dozens of them. And so, you know, because we had control of, just in my office, we had 3 guys working the phones, and I had to have guys paying and collecting.
Right.
And so it was an operator, because back then, up until 2001, it was phones.
Right.
After 2001, I implemented the Costa Rica, where you do the 1-800 number.
Right.
And so we started doing that. So we didn't need no more phone guys.
And you would actually, but in the 90s, you would actually have, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but a guy in a house, like could be a residential home.
We needed 3.
Right.
Yeah.
3 different houses with workers in there.
But they weren't bookmakers. They were just guys that doing the work, answering the phone.
Yeah, taking the bets from the people calling in.
One guy could probably handle 30 guys.
Right.
And so if we had like 150 guys, so we needed like, we overstuffed them. So, you know, we use 4 phone guys, and, you know, we needed a clean out guy, and then we needed guys to go pay and collect. And so me and Bruno were partners in that. We were partners in Loan Shark. Now, Bruno was partners with me in that, but then he also had other partners.
Right.
Bruno was the boss. I mean, you know, he was a made guy.
Yeah.
I was just a young kid still. He had everything. He was just a savvy earner.
Wow.
So he had other bookmaking operations. He was partners with me in Loan Shark, but he had other Loan Shark, but he didn't know that I had other too.
All this weed.
You see what I'm saying? I was moving coke. I was moving kilos of coke. Not big. I wasn't no kingpin, but I would buy a kilo. I'd cut it, make 2 kilos. And then I had 2 main guys that I would just give them to.
Yeah.
And I would sell like 2 kilos a month to them.
Yeah.
You know, I was cutting it in half. I used to, my friend Freddie had a vice. So he used to know how to make it and put the wax paper in and cut it all up and then make it a brick again.
Yeah.
And it worked. So, you know, I was making big money with that.
The story of any mob guy coming up is just money. Any mafia guy, it's just money flying everywhere. But
some guys aren't
income.
earners though.
Right.
You know, some guys aren't really money makers, you know, like you hear the stories and everything, and there's some guys that are super, you know, just really good at it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And the Genovese, for whatever reason, that's just in the culture, is to just be earning.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow. So, and the sports betting, the sports books, you guys are making the lines, right?
Well, we don't make them. The line comes out. You adjust them.
Where does the line come from?
The line comes from, you know, just like say Vegas comes out with the line. You know, back in the 90s, we used to use a guy out of New York. New York was sharper. They had more I would say tech savvy than us back then.
Right.
So we had and you know, we were affiliated with them. They were still Genovese. So we would get New York guys would contact us with the beginning line.
Right.
That doesn't mean their line might change different, because now the line changes based on if we're from New England, right? New England Patriots line is going to be different because everyone's going to come in betting New England. So New England might be a 7-point favorite, but in our area, Massachusetts, it's going to be maybe 8.5. Whereas New York, it's going to be maybe 6. You know?
Yeah.
So you adjust it but you don't go too much, because the sharp guys come in there and they'll murder you.
Yeah.
Because that's the only guys that win at gambling, is the guys that are sharp, that are robbing the lines.
Yeah.
Anybody tells you that they're a handicapper, the only handicappers that is like a guy betting one game every 2-3 days.
Right.
He's control of his money.
Right.
He's looking for spots, but he's looking for line rob. He's looking to rob the line.
So the guys adjusting your lines in your operations,
and that's hard. That's hard.
Those got to be sharp guys.
So usually what you do is you have somebody on. It's not sharp because it's a cutoff. Like, how much do you want to book on the game? What's your cutoff? So if we're booking and he sees like he's got 10,000 on Dallas, he knows to raise the point of half a point. You never want to raise it more than a point or a point and a half.
Okay.
Because then you can get middled. So, you know, you want to keep it, you know, you raise it at 3 points and now they come on the other side and the line ends up in the middle. You got to pay them and you got to pay them. So you never want to do that. So it was a lot of work to do, because you had to be on top of everything. Like, we had a sheet like this long, you know, we had 150 people. We used to do the work every week. And it was always these 2 Jewish guys. They owned Bob's Furniture. You heard of that?
Yeah.
So they were the owners of the company, the actual owners. They were betting with us.
Those are good customers to have.
They won every week.
Oh, bad customers to have.
Our sheet was like 90% losers, because the public is always suckers. They always lose.
Yeah.
And every week we'd win like 140,000, 180,000, 120,000. You know, we always had the winners here, and then the loser side, the winning side, was always a smaller list. You know, because there's not too many winners.
Right.
It was always them, Gene and Paul, plus 8,000, plus 4,000. And you know how they were winning? I'm going to tell you exactly how. So back then, the line changes, right?
Yeah.
New York would get, back then there was no computers. It was like the 90s and there was no computers and computers were just coming out. But New York had access to that better than we did. They were getting, so when the line moved, you know, sometimes the line just adjusts. It might be bad weather. It might be a person, an injury. You don't know that. Today you know it instantly. It's on the phone. But back then you didn't know that. If a star player is out, the line might move 3 points. Right. If Tom Brady didn't play that game, that line might move 7 points. You follow me? So they were getting the knowledge, but we didn't get it in time. So like say the line goes from 4 to 6. Everyone thinks, well, it's only 2 points. It doesn't matter. 2 points, if you go to the casino and you want to bet that game, now you got to lay the odds on those 2 points. And so 1,100 to 1,000 instead. Now you're laying, instead of laying 1,600 to 1,000, you're still laying 1,100 to 1,000.
Right.
So now you're robbing them of 500. So now you're making the better the bookmaker, and you're becoming the sucker better, and you're the bookmaker.
Right.
And that's what they were doing. They were robbing the lines every week. They weren't picking the games. And I won like that. I'll tell you what I did, but they ended up winning like that because they're not handicappers. They're like, okay, they're going down the sheet. Okay, this line went from 3 to 5. These guys still got it at 3. Right. Let's go in and lay to 3. And they would pick maybe 2 or 3 games, and that's how you win.
So if they kept winning, why did you take their action?
So they kept winning because we were still winning. It's just that these were still beating us, you know?
Sure.
It was like...
you were trying to beat them. You were like, this week's our week.
Yeah,
We're going to beat
finally we
Bob's
figured
furniture.
out, like, we got on top of it more.
Right.
And, you know, we got sharper with the line movements.
What was your favorite business at this time? Like
Marijuana.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I grinded with all of them.
Yeah.
Robberies. We were robbing drug dealers. Not like you think of, not going in houses and everything. You know, we were robbing drug dealers, like taking weed from them and not paying them. Like, there was, you know, I could tell you dozens and dozens of scores I made, huge scores. You know, guys are going in trying to rob banks. I made $470,000 in one day on a score of marijuana.
Wow.
And $400,000. The guy that set it up was my cousin, right? He comes to me. He was going to take a guy down in Boston for 220 pounds of skunk weed.
Yeah.
Like, I opened up the bales. There were like 30-pound bales. The buds were like this long.
Wow.
He says to the guy, you want it? He was going to charge me, I think, $2,200 a pound, $2,000 a pound, and you could sell it for $3,000. So I ended up getting it for $0 a pound.
Yeah.
I gave my cousin $70,000 because he don't know nothing about the marijuana business.
Yeah.
And I kept it all. And I didn't make the full $400,000 in one day, but it was a $400,000 score that is going to take me maybe tomorrow. I probably got rid of the whole 200 pounds easily.
Right.
You know?
Wow. And
So-
are you just robbing people at gunpoint, or are you?
No. That's what I'm saying. Well, we did do that one time. We hijacked a truck, and we had these guys. We were selling it to them, and they were coming with the money to buy it. They were coming with the money. I forgot how really this went, but we had the truck. They were coming with like 60, 70,000 cash to buy it from us. We pull up with like 4 or 5 of us. We pull out the guns. We grab them. We take the truck. They had the truck. We ended up taking the truck instead of paying them the money. And then we tell them run in the woods, and they take off in the woods. And my crazy friend Louis starts shooting at him. I go, what the f are you doing? Like, you know what I mean? There's no reason. He wasn't shooting at him, but he was like making them run, like shoot, so they would run.
So you're just getting the drop on big shipments and then breaking in and taking all of it.
You're talking like the Robert. Yeah. So like that particular one, the guy gave it to me, 200 pounds and 220 pounds and I just took it. The next day there was, he dropped it off. There was 130 pounds here, or like 110 pounds there. I had to go pick it up from my friend's package store. It was in his car, 120 pounds of it. And he had an SUV. It was in the back. And I forget that I was driving I had a stash house. And as I'm going there was a traffic jam, and there was a lane where you had to get over to the right. They made you to lean over to the right. And it's a forensic Mass State Trooper gets behind me, and it was like one of those forensic trucks where they were up high and you could see directly down. And I had an SUV, like a Jeep Wrangler, whatever they were, Cherokee. And it was all bales, like it wasn't hidden. They were like all stacked up in the back. And I was like, for half hour, I was in this traffic with them behind me the whole time. So like that particular one, I got rid of it. The next day, one of my guys, I tell you, that went to Mexico, he ended up buying like 100 pounds quick. I sold him like a quick.
So you're just ripping people off.
No.
What is taking people not paying them?
Yeah, but when you say you're just ripping people off, I did that. But that's not
all right.
where
I'm
I
taking
made
it
my
personal
money.
because I was a very stand-up guy in the weed business. So I'm just giving you a hard time.
Yeah, well, so like with that one, it wasn't me. That was the my cousin came up with that deal, and he said, I got a guy out of Boston. My cousin was a wise guy, in that life, and he comes to me with the deal, and he says, I got a guy, this guy that is in the weed business. You don't got to pay him.
Did you have ambitions to get made?
If you're Italian and you're a criminal, that was always your goal, to be a made guy.
Yeah.
With me, when I don't know if I really had ambitions. I just think that when it presented itself, I grabbed at it. They presented it with me.
Right.
Throughout the years, they always presented it with me.
Really?
Yeah. I was proposed in the. I think I got proposed. See, there's a difference now to be a made guy around 94, 95-ish, right around there. And then I got arrested for marijuana in 96. They raided my house, caught me with like 40 pounds of marijuana.
Right. Okay.
I'm not in a school zone. I'm in district court, misdemeanor charge, facing
nothing.
I end up beating the case, and 2 years later, because the informant that they sent in on me was a rogue informant. He was double dipping. He got caught he was selling cocaine.
Yeah.
He had a gun. So they ended up arresting him for that. Then he got caught again for that. So their informant on me was facing like 40 years in prison.
Right.
So I got the case dropped 98. So, yeah. So what
I was asking you about, like, a lot of guys that are making a lot of money and they're just associates, right, of these different families. They're making tons of money and they're like, I don't really feel the need to become a part of the crew formally, Those are smart guys. Yeah, I suppose so, right? Because, I don't know what real benefit. And that's the question I've been asking wise guys that have sat in that chair since we started the show. It seems like more of just a prestige thing and a reputation thing than it does like a monetary benefit.
Right.
But so what happens? Did you end up getting made?
I did.
You got your button. Okay.
Like you said, if you were an Italian criminal, that was the ultimate goal.
Right.
Every Italian criminal wants to be a made guy.
Right.
Even the wannabes that aren't, they ain't, and you got to kill somebody to be made. I know guys did get made without killing. Maybe they were big earners and they had some connections with the family. But, up until our era, 2000, the main thing was you had to, I knew as a kid, if you were going to become a mafia guy, you had to kill somebody. We just knew that growing up.
known.
Yeah, it was known. Like, because they're all killers.
Right.
Every guy in our area had bodies, 2 bodies, 3 bodies, 6 bodies, 10 bodies.
Right.
And New York, same way, more bodies because it's bigger cities and everything. So you had to do it. And not everyone's capable of doing that.
What did you think? Were you like, I could do that?
At a young age, I always said, like, could I be capable of doing that? And I always said I could do it to an evil guy, to a bad guy.
Right.
But in that life, it doesn't work like that. You might have to kill your best friend and who you love. And if you're in that life, and I had to plead guilty to conspiracy to murder my best friends.
Would they ask you to do that?
Of course they do, because the way to get at the guy that they want killed is they need somebody that the guy trusts.
Right.
So it's like they might need me to say, hey, bring this kid, tell him you guys are going to a restaurant, tell him you're going here, stop by this house, tell him you got to run in here, or you're going, you got that guy.
Yeah.
You go to a house, you got somebody there, or you do it. You're going somewhere, someone puts a bullet in it, you're taking a ride in a car, someo's in the back seat, pow, blows his head up.
Right.
And that's exactly what happens in that world. The mafia, if you were anybody like that, and I'm not saying all the time, but they usually target you're going to target your closest people to you are going to be the ones that get you.
That's great. That's right. That's this thing as old as the mafia, is the fact that, like, he's the guy that smiles at you.
Yeah.
That pulls the trigger.
Of course.
Now, what year did you get straightened out?
2003.
Okay. So you're like 30?
I'm 35.
You're 35.
Yeah.
Okay. You're aging well.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. So you're 35. And did you have to kill somebody?
Yeah. So the way I got made is I had to go on a hit in New York City. So the boss at this time was in New York, was the official boss of the family. He wanted me directly with him. His name was Artie Nigro.
During the hit?
No, he wanted me to be officially, you know how I said Bruno put me on record with him?
Yeah.
So Bruno became boss in 2001.
Okay.
So he's the boss now, and he wants to make me with him and it's about 6, 7 other guys, Connecticut, Mass guys underneath him.
Gotcha.
Build up his crew. Yep. I'm one of them. And around, this is in 01, Bruno becomes official boss of Connecticut and Western Mass. So I'm back around Bruno now because we had a couple beef during those 2 years when I got caught with the weed. He was mad. He wanted to kill me.
Right.
Because they don't want drug dealing and, you know, like that.
Right.
And he was worried that he was going to get killed because I was reporting, you know, he was responsible for me.
Yeah.
So in 98, he gets out of prison. I get back around him. I start going to New York a lot more. Meanwhile, those 2 years, I was dealing with every walk of life there was. I made millions of dollars in those 2 years that I wasn't around Bruno and the Mafia.
Right.
Right. So now I'm back. I'm going to New York a lot. I mean, all kinds of captains and bosses with Bruno, the heads of the family, you know, all that. So
was that exciting for you?
it wasn't exciting because I was doing it my whole life. Like I was meeting I was doing business with made guys in New York the years that I wasn't supposed to be doing any business. And in my whole life, I was doing business. I was in prison with serious made guys. I was like around them my whole life. And so meeting the guys like that, and that's why they took a liking to me because they could tell I was real. Like I was genuine. I was I wasn't a fake.
Right.
And you know,
you knew how to kind of just act like you belonged.
Yeah. I
you
mean,
were
it's just-
starstruck by.
It's just certain way a guy acts when you're a serious guy. You I don't know how, it's just in you. It's just
Totally.
there's no acting. It just is you. That's who it is.
That's right.
There's no faking.
Yeah.
You know, and it comes out. If you're faking and you're not being your true self, eventually you're gonna get called out for it. And Bruno became boss in 01. I started going down more now with him. I was there when he got told he was the official boss. The New York bosses came to his restaurant in Springfield.
Okay.
And at that time, they were using 3 bosses to run the family in New York. So the captains, Pat DeLuca and Artie Nigro was a soldier. They come up to Springfield and they give word to Bruno that he is the official boss because the boss in Connecticut and Mass, they were under indictments. There was a racketeering case in 2000 that took the Springfield and Connecticut boss and the two of them. There was Albert Chabelli and Anthony Lavo. They were under indictment now.
Right.
So they were going to go to Anthony got 3 years. This Babbitt guy was going to get either prison time or whatever.
Right.
So they needed someone else to, and plus they were on bail. So Bruno, they make Bruno the boss.
Stepped up, yeah.
Bruno's running the. I'm working with him. He wants to make me. Other guys, we're going back and forth to New York. Now, at this time, they put us with this guy, John Bologna. He's the guy that's going to be the bad guy of this whole story.
Okay. John, what's his name?
John Bologna. He destroyed, him and Arthur Nigo destroyed the, there is no Mafia today, like no existence like it was when I, up until 2010 when I was there.
Yeah,
right?
in Springfield.
He destroyed it. Artie Nigro around 2002, 3, right around there, late 02. He's got this guy, John Bologna, coming up in 01. And he's like a messenger back and forth between the Genovese family in New York and the faction. And they used to come up to Springfield because that's where we are. The headquarters outside of New York was Springfield.
Right.
We for Connecticut.
Yep.
And, so this guy was coming up and he starts coming up real low life looking, 6'3", heavy set guy, wore glasses, had a scruffy beard. It just looked like the first time I met him, I had a bad vibe with him. I said, this guy is no good. He starts coming up and he starts planting himself every weekend in Springfield. And he's getting to know me more, getting to know our crew more. I have the biggest crew. I have the most vicious crew. I have the most violent crew. I have everything going on. There was 2 guys that were supposed to be getting made with me, this kid, Joey and Reno. Joey didn't have going on. He just came home from prison like a couple years before. So he didn't have no crew. He didn't have no money making on the street. In fact, I was helping him, make money in the loan shark in the sports. The other kid, Reno, was a construction worker, and those 2 were going to get made. So now New York is coming up, and they see what's going on here. I own nightclubs. I own restaurants. I had all this stuff on the street going on. I had the crew with me. We go to Hartford, Connecticut. I had the biggest nightclub there. I'm taking these guys out when we go out. So it was like I'm entertaining them. And so this guy's going back to reporting to New York, and they're saying this kid Anthony is
killing it.
He's killing it. So I'm getting a big reputation. So Artie now at this time goes from a soldier to becoming a boss, which is, you don't hear that, right?
Right.
And
Skip
the reason
captain.
why they were using a panel, and the guy that one of the bosses on the panel was going to go to jail for 5 years, he wanted his guy Artie to fulfill his spot.
Right.
Artie ends up getting the spot. The other two bosses didn't want Artie there. So
Right.
that goes to show you that they didn't want Artie there. He wasn't
Right.
the guy for the job.
And
But
he
this-
got bumped up in Springfield or
No,
New York?
this is New York.
Okay.
That's
Gotcha.
New York is where the bosses are,
Gotcha.
you know. And when I see it like that, they're the one that make the decisions. What's going on in our area?
Yep.
Like who's going to be boss in
Right.
our area? And no money went down to New York, like
Right.
I was telling you,
Right.
until Artie becomes boss. Now we start doing shakedowns in our area. We're shaking down. We built it up. It was supposed to be 500 and 500 from these two guys. This guy that owned the strip club, they were supposed to pay 500 a week.
Mm-hmm.
It went from 1,000 a week to like 50,000 a month. We were shaking down
Whoa.
people. Everyone was getting shaken
That's
down.
bad.
Street guys, businesses.
Right.
And that's what Artie created through this piece of shit. And the guy, John Bologna, wasn't a made guy. All right. So around 2002-ish and right around 3,
Yeah.
I'm down in the Bronx, New York. And now Artie's getting to really, he's the boss now. And I know it, but Bruno doesn't know it. And Bruno's the boss. So I'm in the know because I'm close with this guy, John, even though, you know, I don't trust him, kind of like, you know, I don't like him, but he's direct with Artie.
Yeah.
Even though he's not a made guy. So I don't know anything. I just know I don't like him, but I don't know anything else, right? So I'm down in the Bronx, New York, and I'm with Artie, and a guy pulls up. We get in his car. It's the boss of the Gambino family, and he sees John Bologna there. He calls him JB. He says, "What's JB doing here?" He says, "He's no good. He's an informant. He's a rat. We chased him." And Artie says, "You know, that's good to know, this, that, whatever." He's, you know. So I get out of the car, and we're talking alone, me and Artie. So what's up with that? Why is he saying that? You know, like, what this guy goes, "I don't pay no mind." They're jealous that he's around me now.
What?
Around me. Yeah.
Why would they be jealous of like a nobody?
So that's what he told me. And so this was like around 03-ish, right? Now, this guy, John, like I said, he was coming up every weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. As he's coming up, we're doing all kinds of shakedowns. And I said, John,
Did you get a bad feeling about these shakedowns? 'Cause,
yeah,
like,
we never did them.
Yeah.
And I was just going to tell you.
Sorry.
You know, I just was going to tell you. I go, John, you know, you got us shaken down. You can get 20 years for this, 30 years.
Right.
I mean, it's extortion and
Yeah.
it's, you know, a threat to violence. We're mob guys and they give you 20 years, you know?
Yeah.
And I go, you know, we could get 20 years with our records, 30 years. We had
Right.
horrible records. I
Yeah.
go, would you be doing this in your area? He goes, are you kidding me? He goes, we'd get 30 years. I go, then why are we doing it in our area?
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's what a scumbag piece of shit is. And Artie's giving them the okay. And Bruno's involved too, so he's just as blamed. But
Right.
but Artie, you know, and then Bruno's giving him some money back to New York. So out of that 50,000, Bruno's sending like 15,000 a month of that down to New York.
Right.
That's the first time ever money started going down there.
Right.
See what I'm saying?
Yep.
And now John's coming up, John Balloon's coming up, and he's seeing everything going on. And Artie's the official boss of our area because, you know, but so what? They never operated like that.
Right.
We were our own entity.
Yeah.
We're murderers. We're mobsters. We're racketeers. We're gangsters. We're everything that they are. And we're, you know, so now their goal is they want to take everything because directly, if there's a made guy in our area and he's got a guy like the strip club guy, Jimmy Santinello, Anthony DeLavo had him. Big earner, making 100,000 a net and 100,000, multi-millionaire, $100 million man. But he's partners with Anthony DeLavo, who's a Mad Hatter boss of our area, killer. They're taking his money, taking his guy and extorting him. How are you going to take a made guy's guy
Right.
away from him? And that's what they wanted to do. They're scumbags in New York that were doing this. You know, when I say New York, Artie and John, because Artie was a boss. So Artie was a greedy little boss, and now they want to go after Bruno because Bruno's too smart for them. Bruno was like, he's going to give him some, but Bruno's got it coming in from all directions.
Yeah.
Bruno's got $1 billion deals going on. Like, I mean, he's got like major.
How so? Like,
So there
construction?
was one. Yeah. So he's had one guy with Bruno had all walks of life. People love him. Like he had Carabetta back in the day was the biggest real estate in the country. If you go back and search Carabetta real estate and all that, they were one of the biggest if not, right on the top of the whole country in owning real estate. And he was friends with those guys, multimillionaires. They had something going on with some mineral mine in another country that they were working on. Right. They were working on a cigarette deal out of construction, and that's what happened. On one of those deals, a captain in the Genovese family in Florida, Ray Ruggiero, puts together a deal. I was down in Florida with Bruno. We're talking with Ray. He's talking about this cigarette deal. Bruno's got the cigarette deal. But he needs help from the Genovese family. So Artie tells him to go talk to Ray Ruggiero, the captain down in Florida. I go with Bruno. Ray, because they needed help because it was somehow the state of Maryland was involved in this cigarette deal from China. They said they had the governor on the corrupt.
No,
but they needed $250,000 to pay him off. So Bruno's guys and his guys come up with $250,000. They go down and they bring it to Ray. And they're supposed to pay it the governor of Maryland. And they're waiting for the governor to pass something that was going on so they could get the okay with this big, I mean, this was going to be a hundreds of $1 million deal to do with cigarettes in China.
Yeah.
Something that was going on.
You're bringing the cigarettes from China here.
I don't know the exact things of it. All I know was cigarettes in China, and it was a major deal. They came up with $250 to give the governor. It was a robbery. They robbed him. Now that's a made guy robbing another made guy, a captain, which is a boss in Florida, robbing another boss in Massachusetts, and Artie giving the okay, giving the okay to it and getting a piece from it. Scumbag. So now if they were going to do that to Bruno, their goal was to take Bruno down, make him a soldier, because they had to get him out of the way. Right. So that was their mission. That was their goal, right? Just to get him out of the way where they're not going to kill him or nothing. They're just going to say, Bruno, you're stripped of your rank. We don't like the job you're doing. And he wasn't doing a f***ed up job. They just wanted to take more money from our area.
Yeah.
This is what was going on. Now, at this time, I'm getting close with New York. I'm going down there a lot. This piece of shit, John, he used to bring up a crew of guys from New York. I used to, good guys. I liked them all, younger guys. So I used to hang around with my guys. We were all vicious and violent and, dangerous. So, I liked them. But John would go to Artie and tell him all this shit. And Artie was like, this kid, John would be like, you got to straighten this kid out. This kid's the real deal. This kid. So Artie, at this time around 2003, there's a labor dispute between Artie and this labor boss in New York, union boss, and something to do with the Lucchese family. But Artie wants the guy killed.
The union boss.
He calls me. John tells me Artie wants me to go down and see him down in New York. I go down. Artie says, I want you to. Can you, I don't know how he said it, but he tells me this is where the guy parks. This is where he comes out every day at 6 o'clock in the morning. And he wants me to kill him. Artie comes himself to show me where the guy parks and where he comes out. It was in the Bronx. So I go back and he said, use Joey and Reno, the two guys I told you that were supposed to get made.
Right.
Okay. Cause they were proposed guys.
Right.
So tell them, cause Artie, what he's looking to do now, he's looking to make the three of us and have him direct with him down there. He's looking to build an army within an army.
Right.
So we're all loyal with him.
Right.
And we're direct with him, and he's got more control of our area because now we have to take direct orders from him.
So even though you don't like this guy, you see that he's up the money, you're playing it like
I don't like John, but Artie at this time, it's not like I don't like him at this point because he ain't doing nothing to me. He's the boss, and who gives a he's not taking no money out of my pocket. I don't like the way I'm just telling you how everything is transcribing, the way everything was going on. I don't have no hatred for him yet.
He's making it hot though. He's making
it hot. So when these extortions were going on, we had heat from law enforcement like you never believed.
Right.
That's why I told him. Then we had where they came out, we got a paper. I don't know how we ended up getting this paper with all our names that were involved in the extortion conspiracy. Yeah. And it was coming out of New York. So they were building a case, and they were hot on our ass. They put a GPS listening device in my truck. I had Expedition. Yeah.
I got it on, bro, because I'm nice with it.
Good, man. So they were on us hard.
Okay.
So
had you killed anybody up to this point?
No. I was a violent guy growing up, never killed. We had I plotted to kill people at this time. We had shootings at this time, but never killed anybody.
All right.
So I go back to Springfield. I tell the Joey and Reno kids Artie wants you to come on a hit, kill a guy in New York. Joey, scared, take me off the list, runs away. Reno, nice kid, whatever. He says, because at this time now, there's a lot of craziness going on. There's Bruno, that's supposed to be the boss. Then there's me, that they respect. They know going on, like, you know, because I'm around Bruno. But then you got this guy Felix, that Reno was around. And then you got the guy John coming up, that's direct with Artie. So Reno was just like confused. He didn't know what the to do. So these guys don't come with me. I go to my other two friends, Greek kids, Freddie and Ty. I said, and they're violent like me. We're all crazy, the three of us. I said, you want to come kill a guy with me in New York? And they were right away say, yeah. So during that first week or whatever, we make plans to go down there. We just go down there to see where the guy parks, where he gets out. And as we're going to do that, we see the guy come out of his house at 6 o'clock in the morning, because we were down there at that time, but we didn't have guns on us.
Yeah.
You know, we're not going to get out and beat him to death with a bat, you know, so.
You're casing.
Yeah, so we went down, but he did come out at 6. He walked right by us. We're driving down the street. He comes walking right by. So the next day or the next day after, we go down with guns. We post up on the street. We had not steal a car. We had to steal plates off a car in New Haven, Connecticut, put them, magnet them on our car that we had. We had guns with silencers. Now we got to wait for this guy. And plus, it's like a 2-hour ride from Springfield to New York. So we got to wait for this guy to come out. I tell the guys, put the guns underneath the car in case cops pull up. They're like, hey, what are you guys doing parked in a car? You know, well, we're waiting for some girls. And they tell us, well, all right, no big deal. If they search the car, there's no guns in the car. We got them underneath the car. Guy doesn't come out of his house. So now we got to go all the way back with Springfield with the car, with the guns, right? Now, that's a risk right there with our records. We're looking at 20 years with silencers. We all have bad records, state prison records. We're all bad guys, right? So now, the next time we go down, I tell Freddie, go down and rent a room, bring the guns right near the place we're going to go. Then me and Ty go down there, and we jump into the car. We pick up Freddie. We go to the spot where we're going to kill the guy. Freddie's the driver. He parks down the street. Me and Ty sit on a bench. There's a little marsh that's a little parked away over there. That's where we kept the guns. We're sitting there waiting for the guy to get out. It's around 5:45. The guy comes out around that time, 5:45, 6, 6:15. Ty's got to go take a piss. You know, he comes back. I said, busting his balls, lighting the mood. I said, Ty, what are you doing? You just left your DNA all over the place. We're going to kill a guy 100 feet away. The cops are going to come. This place is going to be loaded with cops. Your DNA's all over the bushes. He goes, are you serious? He's looking at me like he just up. I'm only teasing him, busting his balls, right? As we're doing this, the guy is coming out of the house. He's like almost across the street walking, you know. I go, there he is, grab the gun. So we go, hurry up, we grab the guns and we start walking fast down the sidewalk, and then we cut through the parked cars, because it was a street with all parked cars, and you got the street and all parked cars, you know. So we cut through the cars. He's just getting into his car, and here we come up right to his driver's side window, and the two of us, pow, 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 pow. We shot like 18 shots to the 9 of them hit him. Freddie pulls up and we get out of there.
He gone?
What?
He's gone. He's wasted.
We think he is. Like when we left, Freddie pulled up and he says, oh yeah, he's dead. He was like there with his mouth open, blood everywhere. You know, the window was shattered, blood. You could see blood. And
was it pretty wild to like see the bullet coming out of the silencer?
When Ty got to the right, I was to the left, and Ty put his gun up first and went bang, and the window just shattered. Yeah. And then we were just pumping the bullets into the car.
Was it pretty surreal for you? Like,
you know, it was, like I said, we were built for that. You know, it's, 6 o'clock in the morning. We're stone cold sober. You know, this is our 3rd time down there to do it. There was none of that where the nerves kick in. Right. There was none of, we're just thinking, we were just nuts. Like, I look back at it now, it's like, we're going to kill a guy for no reason. And for what? For at the end of the day but the Mafia was still a big presence back then. In 03, the Genovese family, area. I mean, there still was a big, but we didn't need to be part of that. Me and those 2 brothers and the crew that I had besides them, the money makers I had, the guys that were vicious as, we didn't need to be made members. Right. I already had my own crew, and I don't even call it my crew. I call it an associates of mine, friends of mine.
That's right.
Like if me and you were in weed business,
partners.
We're, he's my good friend. And I didn't believe in shaking down people. I didn't like that business. I was a business-minded guy. I believed in doing business with people. I believed networking. I believed in, everyone making money,
Yeah.
you're putting guys with people. Let's all make
Right.
money. And that's why I built the biggest
Right.
bunch of guys. And I had all kinds of, guys around me.
But it's this cultural thing where just a young Italian kid from the 70s and 80s, you're like, that's getting drafted into the big leagues. And I got to do what I got to do to get my, my jackets.
Right. And I was
straightened out.
taking it with a grain of salt. Like Bruno wanted to make me in the 90s. I could say, yeah, whatever. And, now he wanted to make me again in 01. I said, yeah, whatever. And now this guy got me going to shoot a guy. And we just did it because I didn't think I was going to get made over that. I'm not thinking that. I'm just thinking, like, if you told us, go give a guy a beating, we would go. If there was somebody bothered us, and I told you, we were going to kill someone prior to this, and we were all set to kill him. He got lucky he didn't get killed, but that was going to be a body case. And so it was just in us, things like that, violence and all that. It was just something that we just didn't, we just would do it. So when a guy asked us to go down and kill a guy in New York, it wasn't like someone else, even me, I look back then and saying, Jesus, you guys are nuts, but that's how we were back then.
You kind of did things unthinking. If the
No,
boss
not
said
unthinking.
so, but if the boss
We were
said
just-
do something,
Yeah, it was like
you did it.
thinking stupidly, like looking back. Yeah, not thinking to for yourself.
Yeah.
Being just like an idiot.
That's
you
right.
know, like I'm a millionaire at this point, multi-millionaire.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's like
Yeah.
I got a family, I got kids, I got
Right.
what the fuck? I'm risking my life to
Yeah.
go shoot some guy in New York City
Right.
and kill a guy for, you know what I'm saying? For I look back at that now, but at that time it was like I said, it was like asking nothing.
But I think, to be fair, culturally, this is how you grew up. You obviously made a lot of bad decisions, but there's many people from different subcultures that were violent, that did things in their 20s and 30s that they're now 60 years old and being like, oh,
Yeah.
I was a totally different person.
Right.
And
I was at another podcast earlier. I said the same thing. It's like sometimes people do things when they're 17. Like I said, I had a friend, I was in prison with Manny. He killed someone at 17. He ended up doing 30 years. It was a mistake. The kid's a great
Right.
kid, great man today.
Right.
And, it's just you make mistakes, bad decisions when you're a young guy. And to me, that wasn't a bad decision going down and killing the guy because it was just my whole life was bad decisions.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
you can't say one was worse than the other.
Right.
It was just like not thinking clearly, maybe not having a strong enough mentor to say, hey, you an idiot. What are you, stupid?
Right.
You guys are capable of killing someone. What do you need them for?
Yeah.
You guys are making millions of dollars. What do you need them for?
Yeah.
Them.
I think peer pressure is part of it too.
And there was a guy in my area that got made, a young kid who I hated at the time, Emilio Fusco. He tried to get me killed, and he was we call him a zip or whatever. He came over from Italy, and they made him, and we didn't think he deserved to get made.
Yeah.
So I was like, it kind of like said, and I was thinking that camaraderie type to it. Like, you know what, we could build something here, because then we did become friends, and we got close. So I said, maybe we could build something here. Make 4 or 5 guys. There was some Connecticut guys I wanted to put in with us.
Yeah.
And we could have like a nice little, club.
Right. But this union boss doesn't sound like he died.
Right.
Okay. So continue.
So the next day we get word that he's dead. He's in the hospital, but he's on life support.
Right.
Got shot 9 times and he's not going to make it. So we got word from Bologna. But a day or two later, we find out, he ends up not dying. He got shot 9 times. Every shot was from his neck up. Okay, wow. So his 9 shots that hit him, I think he still got the bullets. There was another thing. He actually came out and talked about it on one of our podcasts called Up Against the Mob. The guy that did that was the prosecutor of the Southern District of New York. So he had him come on and he explained it. He said that one of the bullets is still in him. Miraculously, This guy survived. How, I don't know. And the guns that I used to kill him were given to me by the boss, Artie Nigro. So if he wants to blame anybody for getting better at headshots, like he told me, well, you gave us the guns. We shot him from the neck up. I mean, think about it. You're sitting in the car like you are now, and 2 guys come up, and you're kind of tall. But picture you're sitting in your car. These guys are shooting at you, and they're standing up. Where do you think the shots are hitting you? They're not hitting you in your foot or your neck. Yeah, He did. He said he got hit all upper chest, head, whatever. And he miraculously, the guy lived, survived.
What happens next? What became of that?
So, Artie loves us. The bosses in New York love us because they had okay to hit, and we're like a badass crew. Me and my guys. I'm a badass, and my crew's a badass. We're known for being a vicious crew that was able to go to New York and do a hit for them.
Right.
You know, even though the guy didn't die, he was still on the streets of New York. We shot him 9 times and whatever.
Yeah.
It was like
balls.
yeah, it's luck. You know. So, but now they know they got guys like us
Right.
that are capable.
Yeah.
In both ways. Like not them. I was like more like money wise. Like I put them on to make them a lot of money. But like I was like I had a crew of guys that were I made millionaires out of my crew. Like not just me making millions, I made millionaires out of the guys that were around me. And so we were capable of violence, murder, and money. Yep. So I got a great reputation all throughout Connecticut. Because the Genovese family had other guys throughout Connecticut too. They had Buster Ardito, notorious maniac of a gangster. He was out of Stanford. They got this other guy, Gus Curcio, another killer, Bridgeport area, and they said out Genovese. And so it's like they're all getting like feedback. Like there's a kid Anthony, bosses in New York, Larry Dentico, Mario Gigante, who was like kind of a mentor to me. Mario, It was like these guys know, like are now like
aware
saying
of you.
Larry, they were bosses. Then they told this one guy in my area. There was a thing going on. He goes, "You treat Anthony like you would treat me." And that's coming from a boss in New York.
Right.
So that's the reputation I had after that.
So now you're really on the radar from the most important people in the Genovese family. What did you get straightened out?
Yeah, that was the hit was like in April. I got straightened out in August.
Okay.
Day before my daughter was born.
Brought you down to New York to do?
Brought me to the Bronx, yeah.
They do the prick of the finger?
Everything, gun and a knife on the table. Wow. They pick you up. You leave all your jewelry at the restaurant that you meet at. Beepers, gun. I mean, your jewelry. You leave all that there. They take you for a ride where you're going. At that time, there was 4 of us that were getting made, and they took 2 of us at a time each, right? So they would take you there, and then you go in. The guy who whispers in your ear, you go make sure when they ask you, do you know why you're there? I mean, come on. Everyone knows that. You know why you're there? No, I don't know why I'm here. But the guy whispered, a captain in the family whispered, so they bring us there. And there was captains there. And like I said, Artie took over as boss at this time for the Bronx area, Bronx, Florida, and Connecticut and Mass.
Right.
Then they had like Mario doing Manhattan, and they had Larry doing New Jersey. And so they were using it like that, because the Chin Gigante, he was in prison. Dominic, Quiet Dom, he was getting ready to go to prison, or if he wasn't in it at that point.
But this is a very organized crew. I've never heard of 3 bosses that have different pieces of turf, different territories.
And with them, you don't even know if it was really like that. They could have had 3 front panel guys on the panel, but I believe it was like that.
Oh, okay.
But, and then they had some other guy that was hidden that was really the boss, so, but that's what they were doing at that particular time.
So how did life change, if at all, after you got straightened out?
Nothing. Not a thing.
Right.
It was like, in fact, not a thing changed. I went down in August 12th. August 11th, I get my button, and I come back to Springfield, and it was the same exact thing, other than having black marks on my hand from burning the tissue and, crumpling it up and for the fire. There was no. I already had a feared reputation, a feared crew. They knew I had money. I had a networking system with me. I guess what it did was, the only benefit I did was now is, say for instance, there was a beef. You were my partner in Connecticut, and somebody went in on him to try to shake him down, which just happened before.
Right.
It was a made guy went in there to try, not a made guy, but somebody went in there to shake him down. Well, he's got to go now to somebody to help sit for him to straighten it out. Now I'm that guy.
Right.
It's like before we wouldn't even care before. We'd be like, get the out of here. You ain't shaking down none of us,
Right.
But now it's official where we could sit down with, say, some other family or some straighten out.
Right.
And that did happen in Connecticut where we had a beef with not a beef with the patriarchs. Someone went in affiliated with the patriarchs and tried to do that. And, I went and sat with, Louis from Providence. He was the boss of the Patriarchas. Carmen D'Annunzio, he was the boss of Boston for the Patriarchas. And we straightened it all out.
So now you can sit down and mediate with bosses, with other families.
Which I did, right.
Yeah.
And Providence boss knows, the patriarchs know I'm made, but we kept it a secret from, because I got introduced to them as made guys, but we kept it low in my immediate area. We didn't want the heat from law enforcement.
Right.
So Bruno didn't know I was made. The only ones that knew, the only one that knew was Felix Tringhese. And my guys, couple guys in my crew, like, you know, they knew.
So how does, and as time moves on, how is all this extortion that Artie is doing in your area, how does this kind of come to a head, you know? Because it sounds like somebody's going to get killed or the feds are going to come.
Right. So at this point, I tell you, Bruno was running out of favor with them. They robbed them for $250,000. Their mission now, I'm a made guy. I got straightened out in August of 2003. Now, Bruno was in bad favor with them. And for no reason. I mean, only for the fact is they want to steal everything from our area. And with Bruno out of the way, and I have to take orders from Artie now. He wanted me to shake my friend down for $10,000, my partner in the bar. I wouldn't do it. I ended up giving them the 10, but listen, I got that 10 back plus 100 times more from them, you know? So when I officially became, you know, the guy, you know, so being made in New York, I had all the power because that's where the power is, New York. They're the boss of the family. We have power, but like I said, they're the overall say when it comes to murder. But it was never nothing bad until Artie became boss. And this piece of John is an informant. Not only did the Gambinos say he was an informant, Patriarcha, Rico Petrillo, and Beaver, descendants Anthony from the Patriarcha said, this guy's an informant. Then we have a faction in Springfield, Babish Shabelli and his rat crew, his son-in-law, who's an informant, right? Well, the accountant, the brother sat on a deal and went to the grand jury, the other one. So they even knew, they got word that this guy Bologna was an informant. So we have an active guy, and now Bologna knows about the union guy in New York. So he knows about something very serious. He knows about the extortions. And he's come to find out he is an informant. We find out later, and he was an active informant from the 90s. So everybody that told us this were 100% right. The guy wasn't an active informant. It came out publicly that he was from the 90s. So Bruno is going to be taken. He doesn't know I'm boss, but he senses something's not right. And he still thinks he's my boss. And he does. Now I have all the power down in New York. I am the man now.
That makes you boss of Springfield.
That makes me the most powerful guy outside of New York.
Yeah.
It's like I got made direct with the bosses.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I don't answer to nobody but them, and they love me. I just shot a guy 9 times for them. I'm like, they love the out of me. So I have all the power. I don't have to do anything to Bruno. You know, I'm doing my own thing. I don't hate Bruno. I don't not like him. I like Bruno. I don't have no beef with Bruno. It's just I'm on my own. No one tells me what to do. So Bruno's like, he goes, you know, why don't you, you know, he's giving me some grief. Like, you know, we beat somebody up at one of his places. We gave some people a beating. And he goes, you know, who do you think you are? These guys that come up from New York, you think they come up to see you or me? I go, I don't know. I'm the one taking them out all the time, you know? So he goes, yeah, they come up to see you, Bruno. And I, all right. And he goes, and why do you defy me? Why do you do this? He goes, you want me to chase you? You want me to put you on the shelf? And I said, no, I'm already a made guy with you. I go, Bruno, if that's what you want to do it. And, but I got a message for you from New York, Pat and Artie. Pat DeLuca was a captain. That's the guy that, I suspect that Artie jumped over to be boss. Pat should have been the boss for sure. You know, he was a captain at the time anyways. And Artie and him were close, but he jumps Pat DeLuca. So and when I told Bruno this, I never seen Bruno rattled. Bruno was a savvy, smooth gangster, you know, and he was a gangster, and I could see him get rattled. The wheels were spinning. Like, what do you mean they want you to go down? Well, how did you go down there? Why did they call you? What did they say? He asked me what they said about 5 times. Like, well, how did they say it? Well, why did they do it? And what did they say? And blah, 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 blah. And he was just rattled. And I said, listen, they said they're going to call you. They said, wait about a week. They're going to send for you. So that's the message. So Bruno looks at me and he goes, he points at my chest and he goes, you got your button. And I said, Bruno, I didn't get my button. I don't know nothing about button, but I'm just giving you a message.
Why would you have lied?
Because they told me not to tell them. They said they wanted to keep, so the Genovese family, very shrewd. They want to keep the bosses in New York. You never know who they are. The Chin was supposedly the boss when Fat Tony was there. They had another guy that was an old timer. I always forget his name. He was the boss for a while. They switch it up. They throw you off, right? So with me, they were going to pop up this guy, Felix, who was a made guy in Springfield. and they were going to make him like the lightning rod, just like they did to this guy Rooster in 2016 with that big case with the 47 guys with Merlino and all them.
remember that.
Yeah, they put Rooster up as a boss in New York. He's from Connecticut.
So
yeah, you're the boss in Mulberry Street now, you dummy. You take all the heat.
Right.
He ended up driving around a federal agent. They had another informant go into him.
Right.
He lasted, I think, a 2 year, not even a year, 2 years, and he you know.
Yeah.
So so they want to take Bruno down. They're going to prop Felix up and keep me under the radar. That's why they don't want me to tell Bruno. And there's so many informants today.
Right.
They are like the guy, Jimmy Santinelli, was an informant that owned the strip club from the 80s.
Right.
There's informants. Why they know, they just want information. They want to know everything. But when the murders start happening and dropping, that's when they really, you know, but they want to know everything. And that's what the informants do.
And so
informant is like a cop that infiltrates a spy. He's like a spy.
Yep.
You know, he's like, what did they do when they were at war with other countries? They send spies in, right? Well, that's what an informant is. Informant is like spying on the organization for the government.
Right.
You know, and they have them everywhere.
They can go on for decades.
Yeah, and you're never going to find out who they are.
Yeah.
That's why when they say the guy's a rat, we'll prove it. We'll want paperwork. You can't get paperwork on an informant.
Right.
You know, he's an asset to the government.
Yeah.
They protect him. They hide him. You know, I'm not talking about a guy that testified in trials and things. I'm talking about an asset that they implement as a spy.
Yeah. Who's paid
never gets service.
6 figures a year.
Yeah, you'll see the investigation. CI number whatever, blah, 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 states that they're using this house to do sports gambling out of. And you're thinking like, who the hell could be CI? It could be like 30 different people.
Right.
You know?
So it sounds like the New York bosses they found you the most valuable. That's why they didn't want you on the map as boss.
Correct.
Okay,
got
From
law enforcement scrutiny.
Wow.
Protect me, you know, like, you know, keep me under the radar, which was great for me.
Yeah.
You know, but the people that needed to know, Boston, Providence, out the Patriarchas in Connecticut, guys like that, Rico Petrillo, great guy, those guys, just so they know that who I was, I got introduced to them.
Okay.
You know, when I say introduced as a Mafia guy.
Fascinating. And this is why the Genovese persist to this day and thrive, because they had this kind of subterfuge they employ that.
Not only that, in 2003 when I got made, they went on their own. Like there was so much bad going on with the Gambinos, Boninos, other families that they disassociated themselves with them. Like usually you pass out a list to tell the other families, this guy's going to get made. This guy, we don't do that no more. They didn't do that no more. They stopped telling the other families.
Yeah.
You know, they just got real secret, secret with everything. And they isolated themselves, not only bosses from the family, but other families. They isolated it.
Okay. So that's why you didn't tell Bruno. So Bruno says,
and other maid, he's not the only maid guy in our area. Like we didn't tell none of them in the Springfield area. Felix only knew because they were looking to put that dummy up as the lightning rod.
So you're talking to Bruno. He says you got made. You say, no, I didn't.
I said, no, I didn't. And he said, yeah, you did. He goes, you got your button. And you know how I know he knew? So my friend Louis was really close with, I pled guilty to conspiracy to murder Louis. He was my friend I told you I grew up with, and they wanted me to kill him. And so he was close with Bruno at the time. And he said he knew you were made. He said, when you treat Anthony, treat him like you would be talking to me. He made sure he told Louis to say that. Don't get out of line with Anthony. And another thing that he got told about, the story I was telling you earlier, was Larry Dentico told this guy, Jake Genovese, who was a killer in our area. Him and Bruno got indicted for an attempted murder. They shot a guy 5 times at Bruno's house. The guy didn't die, and they had to go to trial for it. Phil Leonetti, the underboss of the Philadelphia crew, testified against Bruno because Bruno thought he was going to get whacked over it because the guy didn't die. And he went to Nick. He was close with Nicky Scarfo, and he said he tried to get Nicky to help him with all that. He was close with Nicky Scarfo, and he was always on his boat and doing business with the Philadelphia family. So, where were we at?
Bruno doesn't believe you. He's like, you got your button.
He does. Oh, so, and at this time, Jake Genovese he wanted to talk with me, and Bruno didn't want me hanging around with this Emilio Fusco, who was a maid guy. Bruno didn't trust him. And I would always be hanging around with Emilio. And I told you, I didn't like Emilio. He didn't like me. He tried to have me killed. I wanted to kill him. But he actually dug the hole with me and did 2 murders with me. So we ended up being close.
Okay, so you ended up catching bodies.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so
yeah.
Go into that, please. We'll get there.
Yeah, well, Bruno, the boss in New York, told the guy, Jake Genovese, because I told him what happened. The guy called for me and told him, like, this guy, you know, wants to know why I'm defying Bruno. And this guy, Larry Dentical, was in prison with Jake. He got a hold of him and said, hey, when you see the kid Anthony, treat him like you would see me. And that was it. And that got back to Bruno. So Bruno knew I was a made guy, but he didn't know formally.
So how did that cause a rift between you guys?
No, he just knew something was up. He was carrying a gun. He was told by the feds there was a hit out on his life, but not by us. I don't know who was trying to hit him. And he was just, but he knew something was up. They robbed him for $250,000.
Right.
Scumbag Artie and Ray.
Right.
And, you know, their own brothers robbing each other, same family. I mean, you would have never seen that by another boss in that family.
Yeah, it's getting messy. It's way too messy for
way
Genovese.
too messy. It's like, you know, bad boss.
And why did you end up? What's the story with those bodies? The holes you dug.
So the murders, I ended up killing my wife's sister's husband. That was one murder. And then
your wife's sister's husband. So technically your brother-in-law.
My brother-in-law. Whoa. And I killed Bruno. Ended up getting killed. And
let's start on with the first one. I mean, you killed your brother-in-law. Most married men would like to do that.
No, well, with him, he was like 30 years older than her. He had her hooked on drugs. Well, she was on drugs. She was 20 years old. He was 50. He just came home from prison. I met him in 96. He had a case with my friend Freddie. We were going to kill him in 96. That was one of the murders. I told you we were going to kill him. Luckily, he got away with that. They ended up doing 4 years in prison. They come home in 01. He starts hooking up with my sister-in-law, my wife's sister. And he was an organized crime criminal, but he was a drug user. He was a
degenerate.
Yeah, you want to call him.
He was a criminal, but he wasn't.
Yeah, he wasn't classy type. You know, he was an organized crime criminal. He was like, you know, he did his prison time like that, but he was on drugs. He would give my sister-in-law drugs. He wasn't a guy you would want with your daughter or somebody like that.
Doesn't sound like it.
So my family's busting my balls. My wife's family, they want me. Long story, they want me to kill him. They don't come out and say that, but they're pressuring me. So I make another plan to kill him. We set up, and luckily he didn't die that night because he parked in a spot where he had a Porsche, and by the time I got to the car, we thought his car was over there. By the time we got up, I had Freddie setting him up. My guy Freddie that went on the hit with me to go kill the guy in New York. So by the time they got in the Porsche, Freddie was already in the Porsche. I had my friend Michael driving me, and we were going to go kill him, but I would have had a shoot in the car. Probably could have hit Freddie too, so we passed on it. And then I passed on the whole hit because my wife's mother went out to dinner with them and kind of like said, okay, the relationship. Their father still wanted them dead. They owned a sausage delicacy Italian store, my wife's father, and he still hated him. He still wanted him. And that's the reason why I was going to kill me. Pumped it up. He goes, that guy got no respect for you. You're supposed to be, this guy and blah, blah, blah. That's why I was going to go kill him that night. So we pass on the hit, and then we find out that he's an informant, and now we're going to kill him. At this particular time, though, I'm in another shootouts and with other going on that I'm trying to actively kill this other crew of guys, this other group. So that's going on at the same time. And then the order comes down. Yeah, so we're going to just stick with this murder, but at this same time, the order comes down to kill Bruno, also to kill my other friend, Louis. And all this is going on. And I'm trying to kill this other family, the Manzi family. And all this is going on while my brother-in-law, Gary, gets killed. So we're trying to actively to kill Louis, which I got a order from New York to do. If I don't do it, I die. I get killed. He was my friend. They labeled him. They put a bad label on him. The guys that did it were actually informants. Bab and his family were the informants. Wow. Testified at grand jury, mob accountant, proffered, supposed to go to prison, never went to prison. It's public record. Read the newspaper on him. The Bazils. And so
did you feel some kind of way? You're like, I'm made now, bro, and I'm a millionaire. Why am I running around trying to kill all these people?
It's too late for that. But I'm still like I said, I'm crazy. I'm nuts. There's a part of me that's just like, this is what I do.
This is the life.
You know, this is what I do. Yep. And I didn't think of the consequences. And and this is what I am. You know, it's like, but I was actively pursuing at this time someone I wanted to lustfully murder. Like with bloodlust. I wanted to cut them in pieces, cut their heads off. And that's who I was after, was this piece of shit in my area that he actually worked for me in the marijuana business. And there was a thing that happened with us. We'll get into that, but that's who I was after to murder. So we get an order from New York to kill Louis, an order from New York to kill Bruno, And we find out Gary, my brother-in-law, is an informant.
Right.
I have Freddie and Ty tell them that they're gonna rob a house, and we planned this one day and killed him the next day, or the same day even. We said, go to him, tell him we're gonna rob a stash. And I did have a stash house. I kept all the weed and all that in that house. We had a hole already dug, 8-foot hole dug. I had AK-47s there, grenades. I had $1 million worth of weed there at times, and it was a perfect house too. Off the road, you couldn't even see the house from the road. I mean, you could have killed 100 people in that house.
It seems like it's way easier to catch a body in Springfield than New York City, right? There's a lot of remoteness up there, right? Yeah.
Oh, you mean to get rid of the body?
Yeah, no, I mean to get away with it. Seems like you can get away with a murder a lot easier in Springfield.
I don't know if you're good killing, if you're whatever. I don't think it's wherever you are. I mean, yeah, maybe because we have more houses, you can.
I think it's just more remote. Yeah, I think it's more
like
rural.
That.
It's a little more rural.
Yeah, that could be true.
Yeah.
Yeah, but in New York, they chop them up too. So like they get rid of them in that way too.
You can tell I'm not a gangster because every time we talk about murders on this show, I'm like, well, how are we going to get away with it? Like that's
nobody is the best way. I mean, even
nobody.
Right. I don't think there's a way today to actually kill someone and get away with it. But if you are, get rid of the body.
Yeah.
Make the body disappear.
Okay, so tell us about Gary. I don't like Gary. I don't feel bad about his demise.
Yeah, and like when I say like I feel bad because for his family, I know let's say he had a kid. I feel bad in that aspect.
Yeah.
So I don't want to feel bad. Like say like I have no remorse or for that.
Okay.
But we chose that life.
Yeah.
I could die tomorrow.
Yeah.
I go back, and I could get murdered.
We're certainly not judging you.
Right. So, I did, that's the life we chose, and we kill other bad guys, kill bad guys. So I tell Freddie and Ty, tell them we're going to rob a house. I go grab Emilio Fusco, the maid guy, Italian guy. He's my age. And I said, we're going to kill Gary tonight. You want to call me? He said, sure. He's having a drink with a girl at some nice restaurant in East Longmeadow. Wow. I pick him up. I got Tony Vitrano driving me, crazy old time Italian greaseball from Italy, funniest guy alive, but he's not a gangster. So I said, Tony, give us a ride. He drops us off at my stash house, but I don't let him see where we go because I know we're going to kill someone. And we get dropped off a little bit further down, and we walk to across the street. Me and Emilio walk to the house. We wait in the garage. Freddie and Ty are going to bring Gary there and tell him there's a robbery. We're going to rob a drug house. So the plan is they're going to shoot him and kill him. We're going to be there just in case, help him bury the body. Right. And if if me and Emilio weren't there, Gary wouldn't have died that night. They shot him 7 times, and there was a straw. If we weren't there, that man probably would have got away. So
So how'd it go down?
It was an ugly murder. I mean, it was it was a gruesome murder.
In the house or
no, outside. He was walking around the house. Ty was shooting him as he was walking, and I was in the garage. I could hear him going, ow, ow. And you could hear the footsteps going quicker and quicker, and he's going, ow, ow, and he's getting shot. I think they found like 7 or 8 or 9 bullets in him when they found the body.
So they left the body. You guys didn't bury him?
No, we buried him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So, and then he was beaten with shovels and shot again in the head and then thrown in a hole. Yeah.
Well,
yeah. So, and then buried, and then leaves put over the hole. And in the backyard, like I said, it was a wooded area, and you could have buried 100 people back there. It was that good of a spot,
Okay, so Gary's gone. What does your sister?
So that night
think?
I go home, and they knew right away, and they knew right away who the suspects were, and they knew right away who killed them. You know, that he was killed, even though the body was missing. I mean, we had heat on us that next day, but I go home that night, get rid of the clothes, get rid of the guns, clean up, do all that. And I hear the phone ring, and I think it was later on. I didn't get home till later on. Maybe it was either like 4 a.m, 5 a.m, that next morning, something like that. But I hear my wife on the phone talking, saying, well, maybe he's out with his friends or he went somewhere. She goes, no, I know something happened. He said he was going to meet Freddie and Ty, and I know something happened. And so it's
just like the movies. This is Goodfellas. Morty always comes home. He never
so I
stays out.
hear my wife saying all this.
Right.
And then she comes into the room and she goes, Gary didn't come home last night. I hope you didn't do anything. I go, get the away from me. Will you? Like I was mad that she even asked me that. Like, what do you, like even if I, she would, like she thinks I would tell her if something like that happened. So I said, get away from me. And it just happened to be too, what was weird? That next morning, the feds show up at my house, And you know, when you're picked up on a wiretap, they have to, like when they have you under, like say it was a phone that was tapped. If you got picked up on that phone, they have to 6 months later or a year, whenever something, they have to come and give you the paper and notify you that you were picked up. I get a knock on my door that morning, the next morning around 7:30, and it was the feds. What a coincidence.
Yeah.
But we're here to give you the paper. You were picked up on wire, and I got that all the time. They used to come and.
Did that confirm your suspicions? Yeah, Gary was ratting.
Oh, he was 100% ratting because of. It came out that he was, but the way law enforcement attacked afterwards, how they knew about it, while he was being murdered, he even said something like the cops know about this, something like that to that effect. Wow. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, he was, it confirmed that he was definitely an informant. That's no doubt. It came out that he was. We got word and the word was correct.
So what does this do to your operations now that you got heat? Were you charged with this murder?
Not yet.
No. Okay.
Right.
So
that was in November, like say 4th of 2023. Now we still got to kill.
Of when?
2003.
Okay. Got it.
So that was like November, I think it was November 4th. And at this time the hit now on Bruno was still intact.
Right.
And meanwhile, we're trying to kill this kid, Manzi kid.
Sorry, why do they want Bruno gone?
All right, so that's great. So Bruno was only going to get taken down from, we already went over that, from a captain to a soldier.
Demoted.
And Felix was going to be the lightning rod and I'm going to have all the power.
Yeah.
And they robbed him and they treated him like a sucker, right?
Yep.
But then I told you there was a case that happened in 2000 involving the other bosses in our area, Springfield area. They were going to go to prison and there was like 9 guys in total. One of the guys was Emilio Fusco that we're talking about. Right. And he was going to get 2 years, 24 months, 23 months, something like that, right? He ends up getting 33 months, 36 months, something like that. Why? Because you're a made man. He denies it. Well, you can't deny it because we have we have a 302 that says you are, and they show him his 302. And the 302 is Bruno talking to an FBI agent. And Bruno admitting that the FBI agent asked Bruno, is Emilio Fusco made? Yeah, Bruno says he was made while I was in prison. He's not a good kid. They asked him how many made guys are in the area. He tells them that. He tells them, a lot of other things pertaining like, our mob circle of things. And that surfaces in the paper. Now, I don't know. You were going, wow. Do you think Bruno's is that bad for Bruno?
I mean, he's telling technically, right?
Well, but you think like, any mob guy you ask that scenario, they're going to say 100% he's a dead man, especially back then.
Yeah.
Today, probably not. Yeah. But back then, he's a dead man. Now, I didn't come up with that paper, right? So what's the motive as why is he getting killed? Because of that paper.
Yeah. I would say so.
That's the motive. That's the reason. Who came up with the paper? Came out in Emilio's 302, his discovery, when he was going to get sentenced. Who brought the paper to New York? Felix Stringhese. Who brought to New York to the bosses? Who ordered Bruno to get murdered? The bosses in New York. Who did they say kill Bruno? Felix Stringhese. I'm not involved in none of this. Wow. You follow me? But Felix wasn't capable of murder. He had no crew that was capable of murder. So what happened is that's how I ended up getting involved in the Bruno murder, because 3 weeks later, Gary, and we were told this prior to Gary getting murdered. Like I killed Gary without permission from New York. Right. Like we were young, we were crazy. I was a nut, so I killed Gary for no reason. Not for no reason, with no permission.
It sounds like Bruno this had been building up. They had been turning against Bruno for a long time.
Doing dirty deeds to him, these guys, right?
And they were looking for an excuse to take him out. And then they finally
got that. Exactly, right. You're smart. They finally got these, instead of taking him down, because he wasn't told he was getting demoted yet.
Right.
He was going to get told that.
Yeah.
Right? So you're right. They got an excuse for, instead of taking him down. And who they got? They got the dummies that are capable of murder to carry it out. Yeah. But I wasn't told it.
Right.
Remember, I keep telling you I want to kill this kid Manzi over here. Viciously. I want to chop his head off. So that's who I want to kill. Right. I don't want to kill Bruno.
Right.
And I wasn't told to kill Bruno. Felix was. Felix a made guy. He got told to kill Bruno.
And he was the lightning rod, so
and he was the lightning rod,
would
but
take all the heat for it.
They told him to because he had a couple guys around him that they were supposed to. Reno was one. He had, but they weren't capable of killing. They were just, they weren't like my crew.
Yeah.
So he gets told to kill him, and he can't kill him. 2-3 weeks go by, and he's not getting it done. And I could give a less because I'm still doing all my, but I'm trying to kill this guy, the Manzi kid, and I'm actively pursuing that hard. I attempted to kill him dozens of times, half a dozen times. I pled guilty to killing him.
You were a much better businessman than a killer. No offense.
I think
there was a lot of attempts.
I was a great. Well, it's hard to kill and get away with it, and as far as like when you're setting a guy up and he trusts you, it's easy. When a guy knows you hate him and he's on guard, it's hard.
Yeah.
He's always on guard. He knows that, something could be going down.
Sure.
When he goes to his car, he's always looking. He's paranoid. He's this, he's that.
Yeah. Good point.
Yeah, so.
Okay, so couldn't Felix, by the way, get killed for disobeying that order?
He didn't disobey. He just couldn't get it done.
I see. Okay. So now this is like operatic. This is Italian.
Well, he was like dragging his feet. So it's like, if they told him, get it done tomorrow or get it done this week.
And he refused.
Or else, and he didn't get it done. That's different.
Right. This is like Italian opera. This really took a twist.
Yeah.
So now here's
that paper.
Here's your mentor.
Yeah.
The guy that
close with my father, close with me, father figure type to me. Yeah.
Showed you the game in many ways.
Yeah. Mentor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you learned loan sharking and you saw
I didn't learn it from him, but he was a mentor.
You soaked it up.
Yeah. Like that brought me around at first. I always like idolized him as a young kid.
Yeah.
He was a flashy dresser, just a, charismatic guy, smoke cigars.
Yeah.
I was like him. We'll go out and drink and smoke cigars. I didn't want to see him die. I did not want to see that guy
20 years.
Well, I know him my whole life. It was like my uncle.
Right.
More than 20 years.
Right.
My whole life.
Okay. So what happens?
So I get called down to New York by Artie. And by the way, the foreman, John Bologna, knows about all this too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's not a made guy, just so you know. And as this is going on, I tell Artie, as this is transpiring, that, Artie, three people, we missed this part, but 3 different factions told us that John's no good. And I said, if you send him up to our area, you'll never see him again. Because I had a whole Doug.
Wow.
I had other spots I could kill him.
Yeah.
And Artie said, that's good to know. And after I said that, he never came up alone to our area. It was always meeting him in New Haven, meeting him in Albany, meeting him in another spot, or coming up with a bunch of guys. And he didn't even do that much, that much.
Why do you think Artie just protected this nobody?
And that
John?
comes along later
Okay.
in the story because that's what you start thinking is Artie in cahoots with him?
Yeah,
knowing that he's an informant, like a Whitey Bulger, like a Greg Scarpa with Carmen Persico. I believe Carmen Persico knew Scarpa was an informant.
Yeah.
That's what these guys do. And, you can't blame them because that's how you're an organization needs power and you get power by having, government help somehow, some way.
Yeah. And information.
If like Whitey Bulger was getting told there's a guy that's an informant, he killed him. Mm-hmm. That must have happened a half a dozen times. There's a bug in your car. He didn't talk in his car. Right. There was a bug in your office, in the garage. He didn't go there no more. So it's like, that's a huge advantage when you have something like that. So I'm thinking you're 100% right. I thought that though later when I get indicted in 2010 for the actual big case, death penalty case, that's when I started thinking Artie knew all along because it got confirmed that John was the rap. But anyways, I wanted to kill him.
Okay.
I think Artie twice
to
kill him, and he refused to let me kill him. Okay. And this guy, John, was the reason, him and Artie were the reason why everything went down. I don't think Bruno would end up getting killed.
Right.
I don't think things would have transpired the way they did.
Yeah.
I would have never went down to New York and have to shoot a guy like that. It was all because of Artie, greed, and a piece of shit that he had around him.
Okay, so how does it transpire?
He gets me to come down there, and I'm not supposed to know about this murder because when you murder, if they're going to tell you to do something that's going to get you the rest of your life, you don't want to tell anybody, right? If you're going to kill him with me, you're going to tell me, Anthony, we're going to go kill a guy. Yeah, now it's only 2 of us. So I'm not supposed to know about this. They told Felix about it. Felix is supposed to handle it. But I do know about it. And so does John Bologna know about it. Okay. So when I get down to New York, Artie asked me if I know what's going on. I say no. And he says, well, Bruno, we got to kill Bruno. And I said, okay. He said, I want you to help get with Felix, get it done. He says, I don't want you to get really involved too directly, and I want you to try to make the body disappear. I said, okay. Now, I still didn't even take it as like I'm going to really go kill Bruno. Again, I want to kill the Manzi kid. I don't want to kill Bruno. That's number one. Number two, officially, I never got told the order. Felix did it officially, got told that. And he's involved because they told him first. And I always had a way out because Bruno's just too hard to kill. He's always with someone. We can't get him alone anywhere.
Got his gun on him.
Well, we can say that, but we don't know that, that's not a reason why anyways. If you get him somewhere and get him in the right spot, who cares if he, So I had a way out if it got to, and my heart wasn't in killing him. I wasn't like, all right, guys, here's what we're going to do. We're going to get him over here. We're going to do this. Like I was trying to kill this Manzi kid. I wanted to kill him. So it wasn't like that. Like I was planning him to get killed, different ways. So, so I go back. One of my guys, Freddie, Freddie Giaz, he was in prison with this kid, bad kid. When I say bad, a gangster. He was 6'1", 2, 3. He was built. Used to do 20 sets of 20 pull-ups. He was just sculpted. Like he was Freddie said he's, a good kid. They give him a label like he was a crackhead or because when they arrested this kid in Florida, they shot him by accident with one of those guns that they come in when they SWAT teams come in, whatever those AK-47, real
rounds.
Yeah, they shot it, went right through him. So he had to wear a bag. So he went into court and he looked like a skinny crackhead.
Right.
But he wasn't. This kid I was in prison with guys that knew him, blacks, Spanish. They said this kid's no joke. He's like he had respect. So Freddie had him, and he ends up being the guy, and he kills Bruno. Like we put up a plan. Freddie talks with him, and he waits for Bruno. It just happened to be that there was a beef like a couple weeks before where this kid Frankie went into a bar that Bruno had a part of or a piece of and smashed it all up, beat up a guy with the bat and everything. So the guy went to Bruno, and Bruno was looking for this Frankie. So when we get word, Emilio gets word, tells Freddie tells Frankie that Bruno always plays cards down at Our Lady of Mount Carmel every Sunday night. Freddie tells him Bruno's there because Emilio found out.
Right.
Frankie goes and posts up and waits for him to come out. When Bruno comes out of the club, Frankie says, hey, Bruno, I heard you're looking for me. Shoots him with a 45 time. I think it was 6 times. Ooh. Kills him. He was dead, right away.
Wow.
And that's it. And Bruno's dead.
Well, you didn't have to do it yourself, at least.
No.
Okay. So you had little involvement with that, would you say? Like,
yeah, I mean, I had a little participation, and I had, if it wasn't, I'm not saying I'm innocent from it. If it wasn't for me, because of my guys and my crew that were capable, so I'm guilty of it. But if you want to know what was in my mind and my heart, it was not in my mind and my heart to kill him.
Okay. You felt bad, or?
Yeah, I felt bad. I did.
And your dad? How'd your dad feel?
He was at my father's store that morning. He brought my father. He was, they talked golf. They golfed together.
Yeah.
He brought my father, I think it was or he bought a goat that day. I don't know if he had a baby goat. I think he was going to go. He invited my father to come eat because he had a girlfriend that used to live like 2 minutes from my house, and he was always over there. And my father lived 2 minutes from his house. So he was always inviting them over or coming over our houses. We were close with them. So, I got an order. Even if I did pull the trigger, let's just say, I got an order from New York from the most notorious family there is in America to kill him. I would have to kill him no matter what. I'm just telling you how it went down. Yeah. I'm not telling you I killed him, and I'm not telling you, but I got an order. Yeah. And if Bruno got an order to kill me, he would have killed me.
Is the hardest part, it seems like it would be really hard to know about a murder, especially of somebody who's close to your family, and act like you don't know what happened to him.
Well, that was the bad thing, because we were, I was sitting next to Bruno for that whole month. We were at dinners together. I was at the club with him.
Yeah.
He was there when that next night when we killed my brother-in-law. He even told me one night at my my father's store, because he was always at my father's store. He goes, "You guys killed that kid, huh?" I go, "Bruno, we didn't kill nobody. That kid took off with his with some girl." He goes, "Nah." He goes, "It was raining that night. I know. You guys, you and the two kids there, you got rid of him."
Smart. You could get nothing over on him.
Yeah, he knew. He was sharp.
So what happens after this? Because this is what, 2004?
2003, November.
Okay.
My brother got killed
guys-
20 November 4th, 03. Bruno gets killed November 23rd, 03.
Same month.
3
Crazy.
weeks later, yeah.
Okay. So you're still on the street for another till 2010.
No, then I get indicted a racketeering case 2 days later. They get me with $250,000 bail and a curfew. I had to be home 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. I had to be home.
What was the indictment over?
Racketeering case.
Okay.
In fact, Bruno was supposed to be on the indictment with me.
State or federal?
State racketeering.
Okay. Yeah, most people don't know. The state of Mass, we learned this from having other Mass wise guys on here. They have an organized crime division.
Not just Mass. New York has it. Connecticut has it.
Right. You just don't see that out here. Or maybe I don't
maybe
know.
because there's not Italian mob. Well, it all started with, but they have other task force.
Right.
Out here, there's more drugs.
Sure.
So I'm sure they got drug task force.
Yeah, good point.
That's
Good
all
point.
it
But
is.
it's an
Organized
indictment.
crime is in the East Coast. You know,
Right.
it's like you're gonna have.
So why wasn't it a federal indictment? Like what?
Well, so it just happened to be the feds and the state work with each other.
Yeah.
So the state does a lot of work, and if it's a case where the feds come in and take over, and it's on those lines, maybe with certain charges or whatever, they'll come in. But at this case, it just happened to be they weren't working together. The feds were working, building a case against us as well.
Right.
In 01. So the feds go where they do an 18-month investigation. Then they renew that. And they do another 18. And then if they want to do it again, they renew it for 24 months. So it's like a 5-year investigation.
Right.
That's what they did, started in 01 with us, with Bruno and me. But they also did it in the state. They just keep going. Sometimes the investigation burns out and there's no indictment, you know? So, but with me, Bruno got killed 2 days later. He got killed Sunday. I get arrested Tuesday. And I get bailed out $250. I'm on a curfew, and Thanksgiving was Thursday. And that was that whole week. And so I'm on bail, and I'm out and about, and things are back to normal. I'm going about with all my rackets, the numbers, the sports, the gambling, the shylocking, the joker pokers, my legitimate business, and I'm trying to kill this kid over here, this Manzi kid.
But you're out on bail for being indicted.
I'm out on bail, and I got to be home at 6. And I got to be home at 6.
Right. And what were the crimes alleged
the crimes
in this
are
indictment?
the same charges. They were nothing. Like I'm gonna tell you that. Yeah, there was sports gambling, loan sharking,
Got it.
numbers, all the crimes I just told you. That's what they were.
And
those are nothing crimes. There was no violence.
Right.
And I'm gonna tell you this. So remember to remind you of that, because when I tell you all those crimes that I made millions of dollars off of each racket, me and my crew, millions of dollar businesses, sports gambling, 10 million a month, numbers business, 80,000 a week. Shylock, $1 million on the street, marijuana business, $100,000 a week net profit business. All this, you just keep going on and on and on and on. No violence. I got indicted for that case. I think there was 8 of us. I'm the only one that went to prison. One other guy got, I think, 7 months. No, I'm the only guy that went to prison. No. Yeah, I'm the only guy that went to prison on that case. That stemmed from 03.
Okay. How
Remember
much
what
time?
I told you that? On that particular case, there might have been one other guy that got 7 months at one point or one time, but on
like a
that
joke,
particular
though.
case.
It's like
So let's just say one case.
Yeah.
Remember this. Hold up off that. So I get indicted. Just forget about I said all that. So 04, 03, I'm doing all the same stuff. I'm still wanting to kill that guy. And when I say when I want to kill him, I had one guy shoot us with him AK-47. We shot his car. We had him shoot him downtown Springfield, filled his car and him with an AK-47, but we couldn't. He got lucky then. We had him waiting in back of his restaurant with an AK-47. He never came out that night. We had plots for him that because he was so paranoid, he would walk to his restaurant, to his house. He lived like a minute walk, but he would sneakily go there. We used to give this kid the nickname Kakazop because every time he was around and we talked about shooting or killing somebody, he'd have to go take a dump. So Kakazop means your pants in Italian. You know? So, but if you talk to him, you'll swear that John Gotti was reincarnated and he was like, you know, a gangster. Like, I did this in Italy and I'm this and I'm that and blah, 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 blah. So anyways, I'm still trying to kill him and I'm doing my 05 comes, I get indicted again by the feds.
Okay, so you didn't do any time off this state.
No, I'm still I'm bail for that.
Okay,
I
you're
didn't
fighting
go to court
it.
for him,
Gotcha.
and I got the best attorney in the area, Benny Bongiorni, and I'm still fighting it.
Okay.
I get indicted by the feds. I get bailed out for that because that case stemmed from 01. All right. So they just kept going with it. And then finally in 05 was ready to, you know, almost 5 years. It was like 2000 to 2005. I get indicted February. So now I got 2 indictments. That was the same thing. Sports gambling, money laundering, loan shark, and things like that. So February, I get indicted again in April. 3rd case, this time by the state again. And they had a wiretap in one of my guys' houses. And we used to do the work over there. Sports, gambling, numbers, all the work. Wow. We would get together once a week. How much did we make? Blah, blah, blah. That was just like, you know, one house that I would go to and do business and let us know that part.
Right.
So they had a listening device in the house. You know, I'm pulling, and I was like, what the f-? I pull out of my street, and a good friend, the guy I told you that used to go to Mexico and deal with the cartel, my guy, he died the day before.
How?
They thought I killed him. They found him in the river with like, you know, this guy was a multimillionaire with like 10,000 in cash on him. Yeah. So they figure it was a mob hit, and they right away they thought it was me. But he was fly fishing and he had a heart attack. Oh, and they found him in the river.
Of all the ways to go,
he died, and I was going to go see his because me and my wife were supposed to stand in for them. They were going to get married, and I was on his way to see his girlfriend. And as I'm going to see her, I pull out of my street and I see the state trooper in the unmarked car. This guy, Thomas Murphy, he was after us. You know, he was the head guy for the state police organized crime task force. And I see him pull out at the end of my street after me. And I'm saying, what the f is this about? Sure enough, the lights go on. Sure enough, he pulls me over. He goes, hey, and he was a guy. He had his job to do. I had mine. He comes up to the car. He goes, yeah, Aunt. He goes, yeah. He goes, I got a warrant out for you. I go, for what now, Murph? I go, what the did I do now? It's like, you know, it's like this 3rd time I'm indicted, you know,
this again.
And he goes, you'll see when you get down to the station, you know, if he goes, park your car over here so you don't get it towed and I got to arrest you, you know. So he brings me down the station and it was 4 of us got arrested. And this time, same thing. There was a bug in the house, listening device. And this time I get no bail. They're holding me.
Because you already got 2 cases.
Got 2 cases and I got no bail. So I'm in jail about 6 months, and they offer me a plea deal, meaning to cop out, you know, make guilt, you know, that's it. And because I got the best attorney that there is, and he's like, you want to go fight these cases one at a time? It's gonna cost a lot of money, even though he took great care of me. He goes, you know, you never know. He goes, I'll go to war with you, but they're offering a decent deal. I can try to get you a decent deal with, because they don't want to go to war with him either. He's the top-notch defense attorney, and there's no violence in none of these cases. So guess what I get? Nobody goes to prison 2 out of, I got like 20 something co-defendants on all 3 cases. One guy went to prison, I think, for 7 months. Another guy went for 3 years. The only reason the guy went for 3 years was my friend Louis Naileri. He was the guy he was one of my guys that would answer the phone. When they raided him and I went to arrest him, they found a gun in his truck. So he gets a 3-year mandatory.
But this is like,
so guess what I get? I get 3 years to 3.5 in the state. I get 29 months in the feds case. Concurrent. So I already got 6 months in. You know, so I said, I'll plead guilty. So I plead guilty and I get 3 to 3.5. There's no violence on the case.
Even with your sheet?
I'm a multi-millionaire. But because there's no violence on these cases.
Okay, so you don't have points? Like in the federal system?
In the federal,
with like
it was only for, I never had a federal case prior to this.
I see.
And not only that, it was only for sports gambling, money laundering, no violence, no extortions. You know, it was like,
so the feds can't use in
they
sentencing?
gave me 29 months for a first time federal case.
Let me ask you this. Can they use your state record in sentencing of the feds?
Well, they kind of did. They gave me 29 months. Like I said, there was no violence. That's still a lot of time for a first time federal case, no violence. Don't forget, there's no violence. There's no murders. There's no threats. There's drugs. No nothing. There's, there was no drugs. So I get the 29 months with the feds. I get the 3 to 3.5. I got 6 months in, and I take the plea deal, and I accept it. And They let me, and I start my sentence. I get the 3 to 3.5.
So you go to the feds to serve it?
No, I was in state.
Okay.
What it is while I'm doing my state time, the Fed time is going to run concurrent. If I finished my time before, then I would have the feds would come and grab me.
I got you.
If I had more time to do it, but I overlapped it. So, but now while I'm in prison doing my time, I get indicted again. This time for an extortion case. So I'm doing a 3 to 3.5, and I'm doing the 29-month concurrent with the feds. 2007, my father passes away. I took that real bad.
Yeah.
Couple weeks, a month later, I get indicted for extorting the vending business company. For the Joker Pokers. So this time I'm looking at, another case. I'm not pleading guilty. I go to trial. My two guys, Freddie and Ty, we go to trial. I got the good attorney. We get found not guilty.
Wow.
Beat
You guys
the case.
are beating cases left and right.
Ty gets released immediately.
Yeah.
Freddie is under indictment for the Bruno murder at this time.
Okay.
So he's got to go back and get remanded back to our county prison because it's a state case.
Right.
State arrested him for the Bruno murder. And I have to go back and finish up my time in the state. So we beat the case around the end of February, the end of February, let's just say March. And I got out in June of 2008. That's when I was released, in June of 2008.
What had happened to your businesses while you were down?
So my businesses were still thriving.
Who was looking after them?
So I had guys that were on the street. Like when I got arrested, it kind of like decimated a lot of my sports business and like that, right? But still, we had a good, strong shy. We had the numbers still going on. And so I had guys running out. But at that time, Emilio Fusco comes out. I was making $100,000 a month while I was in prison from just my end, sometimes more if we had a good week on certain things, But when you're not there and you're not on top of things the way you're supposed to, and you're not, but my wife didn't have to work. I did 3 to 3.5. I got 3 kids. She didn't have to work. She went to $1.5 million cash during those 3 years. And she wasn't working, and I'm in prison.
Right.
So that's pretty good, like support.
Most people lose it all or have no support. People turn their backs on you when
guys
you're
can't even with their wife working can't make it.
Right.
I had 3 kids. She didn't have to work, and she went to $1.5 million cash, which I yelled at her when I got home. She didn't sleep home the first night. She thought I was going to kill her, but
you put her through a lot. So you know what? We're okay with that,
right.
sweetie.
She was at shootouts with me and this and that. Like so.
All right, so you're home in 08.
Shot at a house and all that. So go ahead.
You're home in 08. You think these bodies that you have are behind you.
Well, I'm paranoid that I'm going to get indicted for the murder at some point, for some murders, for something. That's what I think.
Rightly so.
Because I'm like the John Gotti of Connecticut and Mass. When I say that, I mean like the heat-wise, like the notoriety. The Bruno murder was like the most notorious murder. It goes up there like if it was like a Castellano hit.
Right.
Like outside of New York, the Bruno murder was nationwide news. It was like a notorious murder. And so like with that comes whoever was responsible gets the heat for that. And I was the boss. So they're accusing me of it. So I have 24/7 heat surveillance from, they're bugging everywhere I go, strip clubs, restaurants, houses, cars, phones, everywhere I went, frequented 24/7 surveillance. They're monitoring me,
and they want you.
And I'm being in newspapers.
Right.
Yeah, they know I got multiple bodies.
And you're beating cases too.
Yeah,
let's not forget.
And so I'm in newspapers. That's all they do is talk about me, repute a mob boss, this, that, and the other. But they're doing news stories on me.
Right.
They do all just like you see with that. They're doing it on locally with me, like Connecticut and Mass. So it's like I'm like this high, like superstar of the underworld in Connecticut, Mass area, So I have 24/7 surveillance, and I just think, I just did 3.5 years, and you get out, you're a little shell shocked when you get out of prison. And at that time, my wife went to $1.5 million cash. I got to get my businesses all lined up, and you're just, cold out of prison. It takes you a little time to adapt, back to society, and I'm doing that. And as time is going on, I'm getting more comfortable. you know, because I thought that they were going to indict me, you know, like that's what they do.
As soon as you step out, put the cuffs on you.
Yeah.
The new case. Yeah.
So I'm a year goes by, a year and a half goes by, everything is going good. And then finally 2010, around about January, Christmas time, I get a call. I'm with a friend of mine, and my cousin calls me from Florida, and he says, the guy with the beard. And by the way, when I got out of prison in 08, that piece of John Bologna was trying to meet with me. And I would say, hey, buddy, I'm not meeting with you.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, but he made it. I sent one of my friends to meet him and see what this jerk off wants. Because Artie was in prison doing 5 years at this time.
Okay. What happened to Artie?
He got in a RICO case in somewhere. He was in Fort Dix.
I see.
So I send my guy. He says, no, you tell Anthony he's got to come see me. It's important. I got a message from the boss, you know, and all this shit. So I, you know, and when I said 24/7 surveillance back in 03, 04 and all that, I used to have to do business like sneak out my back door, go through bushes, get picked up 2 streets over, and then start trying to go meet guys.
Right.
You know, and do, so never mind when you say like killing, that's the heat that I was on from 03.
Right.
I had that type of heat, and now you're trying to kill somebody. So when you said that before, it was like, it's hard. That makes it even more harder.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, and then doing business, it made it more harder. So, I get word in 2000 and right around that time that this piece of shit John wanted to meet me, and so I go meet him. He's wired up. He's got the feds outside listening, and you know, he's like, "Hey, Junior kisses me, all this shit, blah blah blah," and he's like, and he brings up murder. I whisper in his ear, I go, "I'm not talking about none of that." Where you can't even hear me. Like I kind of mouthed it. I said, you know, and I just fed him a bunch of now I start talking to him like, because Freddie's indicted for the murder of Al Bruno.
Right.
But Frankie, remember I told you he was the shooter? Yeah. Frankie, on the day he was supposed to go to trial for the murder of Al Bruno, he flipped. So he gives up Freddie. He couldn't give me up, but he gives up Freddie.
Yeah.
So I start telling John, talking to him like he's got a wire on. He says, they want to know what's going on with the kid Freddie. I go, Freddie's innocent. I go, the guy that killed him, he had a beef. Remember I told you he busted up the bar and Bruno was looking for. I go, it was a personal beef with Bruno, and Bruno was looking for him, and the kid went and found him and said, hey, Bruno. He even said it, because that was even, I don't know how that came out. I don't know. But anyways, oh yeah, there was a witness that was there with Bruno, and the kid came out and said, hey, Bruno, I heard you're looking for me. And the witness told the police, you know, so it was a perfect, and that's what I told him when he had the wire on. Yeah. And I go, Freddie's innocent. I go, he's going to beat the case. Right. And I said, you know, and then I got out of there. So 2010, I get a call. I think I'm going to walk away now. I'm getting confident. I'm getting cocky.
A couple of years have gone by. Nothing's happened.
Yeah. It was like, I might skate through this. And I was all done around
with violence.
With the dumb. Yeah, like when you go away, like I really loved my kids. Yeah. My kids, my little daughters were 2 and 3. Right. Father and daughter bond. My son was like 9. You know, I was married. I had a girlfriend that was like a true
Gumar.
Yeah, but she was like she was right there for me. I wouldn't be here talking to you if it wasn't for her.
Right. So you're just focusing on getting money.
When I went to prison, like your priorities get set right away. It's like you get locked up, they put the cuffs on you. When you go to prison, your mind goes, my kids, I love them. My little babies, who's going to take care of them? You know, that's your thoughts that are going through your mind, you know? Yes, it's fun in prison. You bust balls, you work out, you read self-help books, you get knowledgeable, you read philosophy and all that. But everyone cries and whines. They want to get out of there.
Yeah, it sucks.
It's like, oh, guess what? I'm getting out next year. Oh, guess what? 32 days, they're counting down. If it's so good in prison, why are they all crying and drying and dying to get out of there?
Of course.
You know what I'm saying? And if you really care about your kids and love them, that's the suffering part. Yeah. Is the prison.
That's right.
So
so you're done around with violence?
Yeah, so I'm done around with violence in 08. I was like, I was really done around with street. My goals were, I had major legitimate business. I had a $23 million real estate deal going on that was going to end up being $100 million. Wow. You know, with boxes like a Costco, Walmart, and everything out of Boston, right on Revere. Wow. Right. The price listed was $23 million back in 2010. Okay. And that was my deal. And I was going to get 25% of the deal with after the boxes were created. There was nothing there. We're going to put like a Walmart. You could put 3 boxes plus the storefront, like the gasoline, station.
And were you taking? Was it the plan to take the street money and convert it into real estate money?
I was okay with money. Like everything was great. I didn't worry about money.
Yeah.
Like I said, in my life, I made millions and millions and millions of dollars. I blew millions and millions of dollars. I was a degenerate gambler where if I had to pay everyone, I would have lost 10 million. You know, I still blew over a couple million when it came to gambling, you know, that I did have to pay. And so I was done just risking.
Right.
I didn't like the fact that, here's what happened. When I did all that, I didn't have my daughters yet. And I was like crazy and wild. I was separated from my wife for a while. I was like just living hard gangster life. And so I was doing all that. And then I have daughters in 03 after I'm murdering people and all that. And when you have a daughter, father or daughter, but I had already done shit that could put me in jail for, and when you're doing all those crimes, like I said, all those crimes I did only got 3 years. That's nothing. 5 years, nothing. 10 years, you'll do it. If I told you can make 20 million and you got to go to jail for 4 years, you're going to take that all day long. Any street guy would, right? So it's like guys go to jail and they're bums and they got to go to jail and they don't make no money. So I'm all done. I want to stick with like legitimate stuff. New York, I'm not going down to speak with New York. You know, I'm getting to the point where and already, like, if he calls me down there, I'm just going to do my best, not, you know, to avoid all that, you know, like, you know, and I wanted to focus on legitimate businesses, like the trash business. I was getting involved in the exterminating business, the wholesale, the fish industry. We had the market down in New York, the Javits, you know, the fish market with all that. And the real estate I had a tire company. We're going to do nationwide tow truck tire, you know, for the tow trucks. We had 13,000 companies. GE had 13,000 roadside assistants. We were going to, so I was doing all legitimate major mega, you know, so that was the focus I was going to do. And I was sick of being away from my kids.
Right.
I get word in 2010 that John Bologna went in the witness protection program. My heart drops. I was like, what? Like, he knows about murders. He knows about conspiracies and extortions. So when I heard that, I was shaken up as far as, like, I thought when I was in this Italian club, I thought when I was going to walk out the door that there was going to be like 30 agents ready to pound on me. So I go right away to my lawyer and I tell him, and he says, well, all right, well, just let's see what happens. You know, like, does he know anything? I go, yeah, he knows some about me. So I was like, anyways, like a week goes by, or a few that week, and the feds go and see Freddie in prison. And they tell him, say, listen, they didn't go see him. They sent his lawyer. They went to see his lawyer. And they said, hey, this is what we got. We're going to hit him with an indictment for murder out of New York. We're going to give him a chance if he wants to cooperate, you know, things like that. But he didn't, and he sent word to me of what was going on. He said, yeah, just be ready. They're going to be picking you up any day. You, Felix, Emilio, my brother, his brother, we're going to all get picked up.
For the Al Bruno
murder. Wow. So he sends me word. So I prepare him. I'm preparing myself to go to prison. And I'm getting all my money situated where it's going to go to my wife and my family. I'm getting where to drop it off. And I'll never forget, I'm sitting on, my daughter's like 5 years old, my daughter Sophia, and she used to think when she used to come visit me in prison from 05 to 08, I was at work. And she was like, Dad, are you coming home with us today? And anybody that tells you, like, I don't give a how heartless you are or insane psychopath murder you are, those are your kids. You love them.
Yeah, it tears you apart.
Tears you apart. Yeah. And she's on my lap, and I'm trying to break. I used to go walk with them at night, take walks, smoke a cigar, and take them for walks. I used to bring them to school in the morning. My little Grace used to hang around with me during the day, like when I used to go bounce around cigar shops. She was like a little gangster hanging around with me. You know?
Cool.
And so my daughter sat on my lap. I said, hey, Sophia, Daddy might have to go back to that work again. And she said, Daddy, no. She hugged me so tight, and she was like, for like 10 seconds, and then she leans back, grabs me by my face. Now she's only 5 years old, and she said, Daddy, you're lying, right? And it broke my heart. And I said, yeah, Daddy's lying. Yeah. And so I end up getting indicted. They finally come 5 o'clock in the morning, and they arrest me. It's they bring me down to the FBI in Springfield. The indictment's out of New York City, Southern District. I go down to the FBI. From there, we go to the courthouse. The judge asks, what am I facing for maximum sentence, death penalty, death by lethal injection.
This is in the feds.
This is in the feds.
Oh, wow.
I'm indicted out of New York, though, but I'm getting not arraigned. I'm going in front of a magistrate in Springfield.
That's unusual, being threatened with a death penalty in the feds.
Yeah. was death penalty case.
What did they have on you? Like, who was, you were loosely associated with this murder. You knew about the conspiracy, but who was talking?
Yeah. So now it comes to, they had everybody on me. So they had the shooter, Frankie. He cooperated. That's how Freddie got indicted. Right. So they have the shooter on Bruno. Ray Ruggiero, the guy that robbed Bruno, he's the captain. We're down in New York one time and he asked us, when you guys going to get rid of this guy? Because Bruno was busting his balls up over the 250 still.
Right.
And John Bologna, he knows about the murder.
Yep.
And he wore the wire.
Right.
He's been wearing wires and like that. And Felix Stringese, he was the one that got told to commit the murder. I was told by the lawyer when he came to see me, Felix is going to cooperate. So you got 4 direct guys that were involved in the murder. 3 of them Felix and Ray made. You got the shooter and you got John Bologna, who was, the middleman orchestrating everything involved with
working
everything.
for the feds for years.
And exactly. So it's like, they got that. And plus here's another thing what they got. They got a racketeering case. It's a racketeering murder case.
Right.
So they also got extortions. They have other sports gambling, interstate commerce, because the thing is out of New York.
Right.
Extortions. I don't know if there was loan sharking, but they got the RICO in there.
Yeah.
So, that's where you see guys with our records get like 60 years.
Right.
Like they give you the 20 and then the enhancements when everything, they just pop. And
when did you decide that it was game over when you were reading the paperwork?
So like I said, I was fighting from the case and I get John Mitchell. I get him, the attorney out of New York.
Nice.
Right. And he's going to be my attorney when I go to New York. So I'm preparing everything to fight the case. And, no idea went through my head to cooperate at this point. Sick to death, though, that I'm going to have to fight a case like this because it's a case where you have to go to trial and win.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they're going to plead out to 20 years, 25 years, or if that. They're not even going to give us a plea. You know what I mean? Like that. And so I'm going to get arraigned. They take me from Springfield to Rhode Island, and that's where they're holding me until they're ready to ship me to New York. Now, Freddie is in Ludlow still, Springfield where they're holding him. And I think they transferred him before me, but he was down in New York before me. The indictment was out of Manhattan, Southern District. So I'm there and I'm going to fight the case. I got John Mitchell and, I'm just like, I'm thinking about the case and I'm thinking like, you always got that positive way about it. Like, we can beat this case. I'm a positive guy and I'm always in life positive, never complain. There's always a silver lining in everything. So, now I already know. So I find out Felix is going to cooperate from my lawyer, Vinny Bongiorni, but John Mitchell comes and sees me. He comes and sees me and he's very close with the top bosses of the Genovese family that are running the family, the real major,
like above Artie.
Yeah, like the bosses that put Artie there.
Right.
So he comes and sees me, and he says the first things out of his mouth is, "New York is worried sick," and for what? That Artie flipped. That Artie's not in the system. He's not in the system, meaning he was in prison. Fort Dix doing 5 years and he's no longer in the BOP locator. They can't locate him. Right. And he got indicted a week before me for this murder. He was number 1 on the indictment. Right. And I was number 2. And this is 2010. Joe Messina already flipped. He was the boss of the Bananos, but again, Bananos. You had Sammy the Bull, who was an underboss of the Gambinos. You had Al Diarco. He was a boss. You got Whitey Bulger, the boss of the Winter Hill Gang. He was an informant. Scarp by year. You hear all these horror stories. Right away in my head, I say, and this Artie was using John, and they were working together because that would only make sense because he never let me kill him. Right. And he protected him. and he's not in the system now. And now I'm number one on the list. I don't even, let's just say I wanted to cooperate. I'm thinking they're not even going to let me cooperate.
Right.
If they got Artie.
Right. Who are you going to tell on?
Exactly. I'm second on the indictment. I'm the main guy now.
Yeah.
They're going to let everyone pile up on me.
Yeah.
And that's a horrible feeling when you start thinking like that. It's like this puts this guy around him. He wouldn't let me kill him. The greedy guys between him and him destroyed our area.
Yeah.
You know, with issuing murder contracts and wanting me to kill my friends and all this other. And it was like, so that's when the thought of maybe making a deal comes into my mind. Okay. And that's when I first thought about it. And it was like, no way. I was like, you know, can I do that? I said, and then when you think about my kids and like, you got to do that. You love your kids,
right.
you know, my family, these kids are, you know, they're my life. Like,
so who were you supposed to get down on? Who were you supposed to flip on if the whole crew's already flipped on you?
The way it works, I got really lucky. So at this point, Artie wasn't in the system. Now we don't know what happened. It come to find out, Artie ends up back in the system. When I get transferred down to New York, like a month later, I'm with the top guys down there now. And I didn't cooperate at this point. I'm thinking about it. I looked into it through my lawyer.
You're in MCC?
I didn't meet nobody. No, yeah, but I didn't go to it. I was in Rhode Island.
Okay.
I'm looking in to see if I can cooperate or not. I'm reaching out to try to see if, like, even if it's an issue, like you got Artie, they're going to be like, yeah, tell them no thanks. They're not letting people just cooperate and get out of a death penalty case or murders case and a notorious gangster like me case. They're not letting you walk out of that. And I'm thinking I'm dead no matter what, but I'm going to ask my lawyer if that's a possibility.
Right.
But a month later, when I did go down there, Danny Leo finally says they found Artie and he's in Brooklyn. But at this point, it's too late because I already set the wheels in motion, you know, that Artie was in. And we don't know where he went at this point. We don't know if he got out and proffered and tried to do something and they didn't take his deal. We don't know none of this. We don't know the facts of where he was. Listen, what would you be thinking if a lawyer has to come up and see me, right, and tell me that, right? Don't you think Artie's got family? They know where he is, right? Why doesn't his family know where he is? Why doesn't the lawyers know where he is?
Sure.
They're his lawyers.
Yeah.
Why are you coming up to me and telling me New York is worried sick? And I'm second on the indictment, and you guys don't know where he is. I'm in prison. Like, how do you, like, if the lawyers don't know and his family don't know, you're thinking he flipped, correct?
Sure.
All right. So that's what I'm thinking. And so I set the wheels in motion by trying to reach out to see if that would be an option for me. If that is an option for me. And that's what I did. I reached out to the attorney for him to see if that was.
And what did they say?
He contacted the attorney and said, I might be willing to cooperate. The U.S. attorney now out of Mass, though. But don't forget, the indictment isn't out of Mass. It's out of New York. So he contacted and I go, what did the guy do when you asked him? There was silence on the phone. It was like he couldn't talk because he didn't believe it.
Wow.
But they said they would be willing to hear what we had to say. It's called an attorney proffer.
Yeah.
You know, like, you know, they would be willing to say, you know, like, why would they want to sit down with me? Something like that. So then that's the next thing that we had to set up. Like, am I willing to, and at this whole time I'm saying, can I do it? Yes. Can I do it? No. And I'd be thinking like, well, you know what? I'm going to do this and these guys, and who gives a and I'm going back to my area, and who gives a if I end up dead on the streets, or I love my kids and I'm doing it. And then I'll be laying down and I'll jump out of bed. I say, you can't do this. You know, I'm just like going back and forth, tormenting myself. Yep. It's like a horrible position to be in. I don't want to be in this position, but you know, I am in it. So and I look back and I'm so happy I made a decision that I did. It was not a hard decision at all. I mean, it was like a no-brainer type decision, but when you're like living that life and you really are like, I was built like that, it's like the most hardest.
It goes against
thing.
your core.
It's everything. It's ripping you up from your insides out, but you just don't want to surrender. You just don't want to give up, give in. And so when I start getting to terms with it, I'm saying, you know what? F Artie and John and, you know, that when I say New York, Artie, like I could give a less. And don't forget, this is the biggest, baddest family in the world. So when I'm saying New York, it's like I'm putting my life in danger by cooperating against this big bad family, right? Okay. But I said them anyways. So what I want to do is I don't want to cooperate against my friends. You know, Freddie, Ty, and Emilio, I don't want to have to go against the Massachusetts guys. And they were on the indictment with me, right? So that's the part that's going to bother me. That's the part that I don't want to have to do. So I'm trying to figure out a way where I'm going to get out. Now, don't forget, I don't have no deal yet. I don't even have the proffer thing yet with the government, yet. So I send my wife to come up and talk to me, and I tell her, she's the first person I tell like that. And she's on board with it. She's like, you have to do that. It's like, she was like saying, even my friends, Freddie, Ty, and them and all that, she was like, she hated them because, I was always out with them getting in trouble or doing things.
Sure.
She didn't like none of my friends.
Right.
So she was on board 100% with me cooperating. I said, well, here's what you got to do. Now, this was my plan. I go, here's what you got to do to her. With her. Her good friend was Nikki. That's Freddie and Ty's cousin. She's a girl.
Okay.
She's married to this kid who I'm trying to kill this family. That's how this is like crazy,
Right.
So I said, you're going to go home, tell Nikki to come up, bring Nikki up here to see me. And Nikki would get, now I know I'm going to have a 3-hour visit with this girl, right? Because in Rhode Island, you could have a 3-hour visit. So I'm going to lay out to her. I seen the evidence. I seen that they got against us. We're never getting out of prison. Because even if we luckily beat the murder, we're going to get found guilty on racketeering. We're not beating the racketeering.
I gotcha.
So we're going to get 60 years with our records.
Right.
Okay. So I'm telling her who the witnesses are against us, guys that in our area that we thought were stand-up guys that want to go around calling people rats. They were going to the grand juries and proffering themselves. This one kid, the mob accountant's Babbitt's son-in-law, he has the same attorney. When I did finally cooperate, I got switched to another attorney out of Boston because Vinny didn't want to publicly represent me, but he was still advising me to cooperate. Right. So he gets me this attorney out of Boston. This accountant gets the same attorney, so they want to label other people as rats when they're the rats. Right.
So you're doing all this. Why? Because you're getting ready to take the Springfield crew down.
No. So now I'm trying to get the girl to come up and see me, their cousin, Freddie and Ty's cousin, to come up and see me because I want to explain to her. I want to tell her for 3 hours, look her in the eye that I'm going to cooperate. And that I want her to go back and tell her cousins to cooperate with me. And I'm going to give her to talk like New York because it's going to be us against New York. It's going to be us against the big bad Genovese family in New York, right? But we're dangerous killers ourselves. So they have children. I have children. We love our children. We have families. We're from Mass. We make a deal with the government. And the reason I'm thinking we can make this deal is if Artie is say an informant or say he's not in the system, but he's in the system, if we can make a deal and we can get ourselves out of this, we come back to our area. No one's going to f around with us. I mean, it's like, and then we do legitimate business and we just carry on life. And I know, it's like, and that was my plan for her to come up and visit me and tell her that for 3 hours. And I feel like I could have convinced her to make sure to go back and tell them we're getting life. I know it sucks. I know it's not in our blood to do that. I know this and I know that, but this is what we have to do. So that's the plan. And that's my plan. And I want them to do it that week. Okay. So that week, my lawyer, Vinny's father dies. So I'm going through this most crucial part of my life. I might be cooperating. I didn't decide yet, but I'm waiting to hear back from him if what the U.S. attorney said. His father dies. He loved his father. So that delays everything for about 10 days because now he's got to bury his father. He's got to, do all that type of shit. And, Rhode Island where he's got to come, it's like about an hour ride, to come visit me. So I had to wait for that. Then March 8th comes and the day that my father died 3 years earlier, I call up my girl and she's usually always happy, supportive. And I hear her go, hello. And I knew something was wrong. And so you got to wait for her to answer it. And I go, what's the matter? And she goes, your wife's on the other line. My wife tricked my girl because she found the number. I never called my girl from my phone, but one time I did, and it was 3 late. I just want to make sure she got home all right. My wife found the number. She tricked her. She called her up and said, it went to voicemail. She got her name, and she says, oh, hi, is this so-and-so? Yeah, this is Anthony's cousin. I'm just letting you know that he's going to New York to get transferred. And so, tell me about you and Anthony. You guys love each other. Where'd you go? Where's he take you? Yeah, but half hour later, she goes, I'm not his cousin, I'm his wife. And they're crying on the phone with each other, and it was like so now I'm facing a death penalty case. I think I'm gonna get cooperate. I'm thinking that so that's like I want to blow my brains out. Just the fact that I'm even thinking about it. And my lawyer's trying to get me back information that am I even capable of getting a deal because of who I am. But his father dies, and then the day that my father dies 3 years earlier, my wife catches me with the girl. So now my wife has a nervous breakdown. She's not helping me no more. She's like, you bastard, do you love her? Blah, 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 blah. I go, listen, all that. I go, I need you to bring Nikki up here, right? You, I hope you die. You. Then I call back, do you love her? Do you still love me? Yeah, I want to still be with you. I'm still coming with you. Then I call, fuck you, I hope you die. Blah, 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 blah. She's having a nervous breakdown. She got to go see therapist.
Like, babe, I'm part of the Italian mafia. We have Gumare. What's the matter with you?
That don't work, dude. Listen, yeah, that. I mean, that might have been work old school, but you got a wife, she's going to kill you, right? They don't want to hear that. So now all this going on, and it's like the timing of it all. Like I never got caught with another girl like that. You know, the timing of it all and all this and all that. And now she's not bringing up Nikki. So now I got to figure another way where I can get a message to, and all this is public knowledge as far as that I reached out to them, because now I got to go through my uncle to get the message to Freddie and Ty and the other kid, Emilio, that this is what I want to do.
Right.
Because, you know, like nobody gives a fact that I cooperated when it comes down to it in my area, Connecticut, in the world. Nobody cares. No. Like they're probably saying, the only thing that where I get heat from is like the 3 guys in my area that ended up having to go to prison.
Right.
But here's the thing. I tipped them off ahead of time of what I was going to do. And I'm not making an excuse for that, but they could have did what I did.
Right.
They got balls.
So how did it resolve itself? What was the plan when you got word to Nikki and Freddie and the crew? What was your plan to flip on New York?
Yeah, to flip.
Who were you going to give up in New York?
So Artie was the top of the indictment.
Right.
So when I find out that he's back in the system, I haven't had a deal yet. He's back in the system, but still, there's guys that made deals that they didn't take their deals, and then they're back in the system.
Right.
You know, John Gotti Jr. proffered. They still didn't take it, and he's back facing trials, 4 trials or whatever. There's guys that proffer and they get caught lying. They don't take their deals. You see what I'm saying? So my plan was for us to cooperate, you know, and go back to our area and live the rest of our lives
so
with our families.
Were there enough targets there?
That's not a bad plan.
No, but I still don't get it. Like, what happened?
Artie was the target.
Right. And did the feds say...
We got lucky that in New York, the indictment was out of... If the indictment was out of Mass, we were dead. I wouldn't even have got a deal. Okay. The Frankie guy, he only had 1 murder. He was the shooter. He only had 1 murder, and he was nothing on the streets. He didn't have no money. They gave him 13 years after he cooperated because he got his indictment in Mass, so he had to get sentenced in Mass.
Right.
He got 13 years. I got 10 times more than him. Okay. And I end up, all right. So we got lucky that the indictment came U.S. Attorney's office in Manhattan. They're known for giving guys that cooperate great deals.
Right.
Sammy the Bull, 20 murders, 5 years. Guys that did way worse than me, 3 years. More murders, New York wise guys, 3 years. Another guy, more murders, everything, 4 years, 3 years. Okay,
my friend Anthony. So you got word back that they were the AUSA out of the Southern District was willing to let you guys make a deal if you were
No. So finally I got word back that they're through an attorney proffer that they're willing to sit down with me, but that doesn't mean they're going to take me.
Right.
I didn't get no official confirmation.
Okay.
At this point. So I didn't sit down with them. I'm still in limbo. I go to New York now. They transfer me there and I go and get arraigned for the case. And I have no deal yet. So I plead not guilty. And my lawyer's there representing me. And but I haven't officially sat down with the government. And so now I go to Brooklyn first, and then they send me to MCC, Manhattan.
Okay.
And that's where I'm selling with Joe, the boss of the Gambinos. All the gangsters are there. I'm around the mall, all the heavyweights.
Okay, so bring us home. How does this, how long does it take before you're finally able to sit down and then they accept
So now
Your
while I'm there,
cooperation.
I'm in MCC, and that's when they finally pull me out of MCC, and I finally sit down with the government. They bring me to the U.S. Attorney's office, or they bring me to court.
Right.
Then from court, this is like 5 o'clock in the morning. You get to the courthouse. You're there around 8, and they pull me up first thing in the morning, 8:30, 9 o'clock, to the U.S. Attorney's office. So this is the actual first time I'm sitting down with them. And there at this office is 15 people in the room. There's U.S. attorneys from Mass, U.S. Federal agents from Mass, state troopers from Mass, Connecticut FBI, U.S. attorney from New York, New York FBI, and my lawyer that I got in the room with me.
Right.
So we sit down, and it took like, this is what I'm facing. And it was like the most hardest decision. I almost didn't make it. There's a podcast that came out that the prosecutor on my case will tell you that he didn't think I was going to make the decision. Finally, he had to tell me, like, listen, because I kept kicking him out of the room. And I kept saying, I need to call, my wife, see if she's still on board. I'm calling my wife. Yes, I'm going to come with you. You, I hate you. Hope you die. Blah, 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 blah.
Man.
I call up my girl. My girl was right on board with me. She's like, "Dan, you got to do this. Listen, you got little kids."
Yep.
She goes, "You have to do this." My
Right.
girl was like great supportive of me.
Yeah.
I called up my uncle, my family. You gotta try to make a deal.
Wow.
And then I'm also calling people that owe me money. Hey, bring in the money. they actually heard that and reprimanded me for that. But anyways, they come back in. So what are you going to do? And they tell me, this is how it works. We're not telling you, we're just going to see what you have to say. We're not giving you no deal. And this is how it works. And they tell me how everything works. And I said, I don't think I can do it. I kick them out of the room.
You have to
again.
tell them everything you've done.
They're telling me the rules, how it works. Like, I'm going to proffer with them, and they can just say, yeah, we don't care about what you just said. See you later.
Right.
Now, they can't use what I say against me.
Okay. Gotcha.
But still.
Yeah.
They don't, they're just here to listen, to what I have to say.
So what was your idea? Who were you going to try to give them?
Well, here's the thing I didn't understand. Why wasn't I indicted for the shooting in New York if John Bologna is an informant? Right? Right? He's an informant.
Yeah.
Why
he didn't know about it, right? Because Artie let him know about it.
So
right?
I'm like thinking, why didn't he know about that? Why ain't that on? So I'm thinking, I'm thinking like I cooperate, and my guys cooperate with me, and we come back, we do a little bit of time. I'm thinking I'm going to get like 3 years. They give they give great deals in the Southern District of Manhattan for mobsters.
Right.
So I think I'm going to get a super deal. These guys are going to, I thought these guys were going to do it. I swear to God, I thought they were going to cooperate with me. I believe, and people can say he's full of shit, that, I believe if the cousin came and visited me, I would have convinced her to go tell them. Say, listen, I'm going to cooperate. They have to do it. They're Greek anyways.
Right.
You know what I mean? They're not
blood tied.
Whatever. They got balls. They're killers. They're tough kids. They're bigger than me. They're tougher with their hands.
Are you trying to say they didn't end up taking deals?
Yeah, they didn't take they didn't cooperate.
They don't cooperate.
Yeah,
right.
they didn't cooperate.
All right. So what happened to them?
They're in jail for the rest of their lives.
Wow. They took it to trial?
They rolled the dice, and they maybe thought that they could beat it. How could you beat the case? They already had 4 direct murders, and then when I flipped, that's 5. I mean, did they think, like, what did they possibly... And then even if you thought that, why not take a deal for... if they even got an offer, 25 or 30 years.
Right.
But they didn't want to, they just wanted to roll the dice.
Wow. And so the cousin never came to see you?
The cousin never came. My uncle went and gave the message. That's all public. The lawyer knows that.
Right.
He actually said it when Freddie on TV that Anthony reached out to them through a back channel, he called it. And he said, Arillotta reached out to these guys and, offered them, a deal to do what he was doing, and they didn't take it. Listen, they could have took the deal with me. What I did was, I take it like the captain of a ship. The ship's going down, with or without me. With or without me, they're going to jail for life. The only difference is I'm not in jail in life with them. With me or without me, the ship was sunk. Just like Sammy the Bull with Gotti, with or without Sammy the Bull, Gotti's getting life in prison.
Right.
You know, with all the tapes of his mouth
Sure,
and everything
sure.
like that.
I agree
With or
with that.
without me, the only difference is I'm not in prison the rest of my
Right.
life. Okay, I didn't, hurt anything. The only thing is I jumped off the ship. I'm looking back right now. Is that a hard decision? These guys could have been home with me. Go ask
Right.
their kids if they wish they did what I did.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, it seems like a no-brainer for sure,
Now, to
especially
me,
for a
it
guy
seems
like
like a
Artie,
no-brainer.
because he's a rat. So let's, because we're running out of time.
Yeah, go ahead.
What became, so who did you officially offer or proffer to the government that you could give information on?
So my proffer, when I finally sat down and gave it to him, my first question to them was, so then finally they gave me an ultimatum. Listen, are you going to do this or not? This is it. We're not getting out of the room. And I said, all right, well, listen, and I got to be careful because John Bologna is their golden goose. I said, listen, I know you guys love this guy, John Bologna. I know this, but that guy's the guy, the reason all this happened, all the murders and everything that happened was because of your guy. I'm not bad mouthing him because you got to be careful how you talk because they'll probably say, oh, you can't go against him. He's our guy and we're not going to do anything for you. I go, but if he's such your golden goose and I'm not bad mouthing him, I know you guys love him. He's this and that. He's been an informant since the 90s, but how come I'm not indicted for the shooting in New York, the attempted murder? And they looked and they say, well, tell us about it. And that's how I decided I ended up cooperating. And they didn't know nothing about it. And he never told them about that.
Wow.
And what happened was he wasn't going to spend one day in prison, but because of that, he ended up dying in prison. He never got released.
John.
So he thought he was slick. And at the end, he thought he was smarter than everybody. He thought he was Machiavelli. And he thought he was, reading all these books, the Sun Tzu and all this. And he thought he was smarter than them. He ended up leaving that out. And he ends up going to prison the rest of his life and dying.
John.
They ripped up his deal. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, because he forgot to tell them
He didn't
about
forget.
that.
He didn't
He
tell
just
them.
didn't tell them about your attempted murder.
Right.
Wow. Okay, so who did you end up cooperating against?
I ended up cooperating. So Freddie, Ty, and Emilio don't take the deal.
Right.
And Artie is still the number one guy.
Right.
So those four.
Okay. So gotcha. All right. So what was the deal with Artie? Was he cooperating? Do we know?
So that's the $1 million question
Right.
because why did the lawyer come up to me and tell me he's not in the system? And New York is worried sick. Where was he during that time period?
Totally.
Right. So in my mind, I thought for sure that was a horrible feeling when I got told that. So I mean, it's like, where was he? Like I said, did he attempt to, and they moved him out and put him into, like, say, don't forget, he was at Fort Dix. Say they moved him out of Fort Dix. Now you're in transit, let's say somewhere, you're out of the system, and they brought him to a county prison. He wouldn't be in the BOP locator, and that's where he could have met and maybe did a proffer.
Right.
Right? Artie was such a bad boss anyways that even if like the 99.99999 10 million % chance that he didn't get found guilty, I think they would have killed him when he got out of prison.
Right.
That's how bad he was.
A lot of
Greedy little, just brought this guy Bologna around.
Right.
All that they caused in our area.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
So
totally.
where is Artie now?
Dead.
He died in prison?
Yeah, he died in prison.
Did they give him life for ordering the murder?
He got life, yeah.
Okay. Now, did you have to go to testify at trial or anything?
Yeah, I had to go to 2 trials and testify.
Wow.
I didn't want to have to go do that, especially I didn't care about Artie. I cared about my guys.
Yeah.
I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to see them go to prison.
Right.
I wish they weren't in prison to this day.
Yeah.
I would rather we kill each other, than to have that. But but listen,
totally.
they didn't make the decision that I made, so they have to live with that.
Yeah.
I made the decision that I made, and I can get my head blown off tomorrow. I have to live with that. So we all made our decisions.
Did you get to walk or did they give you time?
No, I got 8.5 years.
Okay. Where'd you serve?
I started off the first year in Valhalla, like under my own name with everything. And then I ended up doing the last 6.5 in Ferrin.
And was it like a separate yard, like a protection yard?
It's like a unit where, like in our unit, everybody in there were notorious something. Gangster, killers,
Yeah.
El Chapo's guys, the Flores twins,
Yeah.
like Joe
Right.
Messino was my celly.
Yeah.
You had Kevin Roach on the big brand case where they killed 24 guys. You had Corn-Fed chopping guys' heads off in
Yeah.
prison. Like every guy, Mexican guys that were killed thousands of guys
Yeah.
in the cartels over there. So it was a place like that.
Right.
There was like 100 120 guys in the unit, and everybody in there had multiple bodies, multiple, but they had worked out a deal with the government.
Right. So, and then you get out what year?
2017.
Okay. So are you back? Did you go back to Springfield?
I went the first day I got out, I went directly back to Springfield, Mass, into the house that I grew up in as a child.
Wow. And you're there to this day?
I ended up buying the house in 2019.
Yeah.
And that's where I am to this day.
And no protection?
No protection.
No looking, like I'm sure you're looking over your shoulder.
I never looked over my shoulder once. I have the same routine all the time. I go to the same gym. I go to the same bar, restaurants, and I'm not being cocky.
Right.
I'm not trying to act like a tough guy because I don't want, none of that. Just I don't look over my shoulder. I'm not.
Right.
I never was that type. Even when I was on the streets and they told me you got a murder hit out on you. Right. I'm not that type.
After you guys went down, it sounds like the whole Springfield family just kind of disappeared.
Yeah, it's dead. They ruined it. John Baloney and Artie ruined our whole area.
Right.
Like I said, with or without me, that ship was going down. There was my old crew, a faction, to try to come about. Yeah. But they're nothing like, they're without a leader. They needed someone like me. Like they had this guy Rooster. They straightened him out to try to bring our crew back. He had a bunch of bums around him. Right. They weren't capable of, guys are on drugs, getting Narcan and just a pathetic bunch of guys. The guy that they call the real gangster, he's not even a made guy. He's my friend. He's the most feared guy in our area, and he's not even a made guy. He wanted nothing to do with the mob. Right. Albert Calvinese. I mean, it's like they destroyed the mob. They destroyed our area, is what they did. They decimated it. It's nothing like it was. It'll never be like it was. The mob is, I'm not saying there's no organized crime in our area. There's some sharp guys still making the money. Yeah. And, still doing the old time rackets because they were established and been there. Yeah. So they still are, they got their little things. But as far as being a made guy with a boss and orders and everything, no, there's not that.
Right. And the Genovese, they're so low key now that they don't.
The bosses.
Yeah. They're not going to come after you.
They're not doing nothing. Right. Well, and I'm not worried about them coming after me, but they're not doing anything. Like the bosses aren't talking to nobody no more. Right. They're worth hundreds of millions of dollars. They don't want nothing to do with nobody. Yeah. And they're putting up these dummies as acting street bosses so that they don't have to they don't want nothing to do with nothing.
Did they care what happened to Artie? Did you hear about like
I said, I've heard nothing good about him from them. Even when I was in there, Danny, the bosses that I was in there with, had nothing good to say about him. Wow. They, what they call him, a cheap for getting the lawyer that he got. He goes, he's got money. Why doesn't he spend some money this cheap? And they're telling me this while we were locked up at MCC about him. Wow. And that's a boss telling me of the Genovese family.
Yeah. Just didn't. So there was no love lost and no real hatred directed towards you for helping put Artie away because
I don't know personally what they want, what they think. I don't care, but I could care less about Artie.
Wow, what a story of treachery and hustle and it's betrayal. It's wild, man. It's a real gangster saga.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
So were you able to hold on to some of those businesses?
So I had, like I said, some major businesses. Everything. I lost everything when I went away in 2010.
Did you have to give a lot of money away to the government?
I got $2 million forfeiture.
Did you stay with your wife?
So she ended up, I stayed with my girl. My girl actually, stayed with me, most of the time. And my wife, she moved on, which I don't blame her.
Right. So you're with your girl now?
Kind of.
Yeah, that's all right. I won't pry anymore. Yeah. Wow. So tell us, man, you got a book out now or coming out?
Yep. So 2020, I wanted to tell the story of Connecticut and Western Mass, Central Mass, of not me, our area, let the world know that, it's not just Boston and New York and Philly and Chicago. We had a notorious area with legendary gangsters, Whitey Tropiano, Billy Grasso, Spigno Sanfetari, legends that were at Appalachian meetings, Murder Inc., Whitey Tropiano, all that. So I wanted to and our story of what happened, the true story of what happened. And I'm a big part of that.
Your crew, I mean, that's a legendary story. You were real millionaire moneymakers.
Yeah, I was a multimillionaire without the mob. Yeah. I didn't need them. So, but the book is called South End Syndicate. The guy named Joe Bradley wrote it. He wrote 6 books, all fiction before. He's a good writer. He's written the book. I haven't read it. I just don't read things. I can't read it. It's about me, and I just can't read it. Well, it's about me. I read one chapter and it was great, and I know the book is going to be great. I gave it to a couple people and they loved it. So I'm sure people are going to love this book and get a good understanding about what is going on with it. It's called South End Syndicate. It's coming out September 17th, I believe.
Okay.
And
where can they get it?
It's on pre-order right now on Amazon, and it's there's a big publishing company that's involved with all this.
Awesome.
And he is a great writer, and I'm sure like this is going to be a success. But
okay, so you
that's
can pre-order
the main
it.
reason. What's that? Yeah,
so they can pre-order.
it.
So if you just go to Amazon when you're watching this episode, go get South End Syndicate. You can pre-order it, and then it releases on September 17th.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
And then do you have socials,
I have
podcasts,
my
anything like that?
Instagram that I use mostly in Facebook. Anthony_Bingy. BINGY_Arillotta, my name. So it's my name, really, if they punch it in. I'm on Instagram, Facebook.
Yeah.
I have a Mafia channel that I was starting only because I wanted to, go, like I was going back down to where Bruno got killed. I was doing a podcast.
Yeah.
It was called Money, Mayhem, and the Mafia. And Money, Mayhem, and the Mafia was 4 episodes. I was bad quality, bad, none of this good. And, it was like, there's a lot of work involved.
Takes a lot of work.
Takes a lot of work.
Trial and error.
And I still want to get things rolling with that. But I just need, it's like, that's not my thing. I don't need to. I'm in real estate. I'm doing real estate deals. I'm getting a Discord going where I'm going to teach people real estate.
Awesome.
Wholesaling. And I'm actually going to go partner with them if they, in the flipping process, teach them and everything. So I'm in the process of getting that going. So I'm not hungry enough to go through this is work.
You gotta want it. You gotta want it. This is what we do.
This is like people think it's like, so I'm going to start a podcast. Yeah, they all start one, and it's like, So, anyways, I got 4. But I might pick up that channel where I left off with that, and do something like along the lines of a Patreon. And just do a show a week, and and I'm in talks with maybe doing something like that.
Okay, so we'll see what happens with that. But absolutely, I mean, the book is a must read, in my opinion. Southside Syndicate, is a piece of Mafia history, man, and modern Mafia history.
It is. And, I think I put us on the map, meaning Western Mass, Connecticut, by my era of living that life. I think I put us, not that I'm taking credit for that, but these guys were notorious gangsters. And I think me killing Bruno, and most, being part of that and becoming boss and everything, I think I'm a big part of that notoriety that we're getting now.
Absolutely.
I think if Bruno doesn't get killed like that, you don't hear much about our area.
Sure. And I think you're the last generation of gangsters that moved like that. Like organized crime,
especially in my area.
Yeah.
Well, because they never killed anyone other than, my guys and my crew, and things like that. I have dangerous guys that are out there that still are out there that are murderers, that never went to prison.
Yeah.
That were badass dudes that were, all my money. Nobody got hurt in my area. And from me, like you said, those 4 guys that were directly on the case, but I did business with hundreds of guys from you heard my crime story. It started in the 80s.
Yeah.
Nobody went to prison. None of my guys went to prison for the marijuana. None of my guys went to prison for all the sports and gambling and numbers and loan sharking and violence and extortions. You know what I'm saying? So nobody got hurt back there.
Right.
And I don't think anybody would give a if those guys made the same choice I did. I think you want to hear peep about this.
Yeah. I agree, man. Wow. Killer episode. Thank you for sharing it.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I really enjoyed it. Yeah,
good.
You're pretty good at what you do.
Thanks, brother.
Yeah.
Thanks, brother. You too, man.
Yeah, thanks.
So go get that book. I certainly am. Anthony, thanks again, and I hope you enjoyed your time in LA.
Thank you too.
All right, guys, take care.